talking about building hot rods here. We're not talking about sugarcoating. We're talking about everything. Knuckle busting. The rust in your fucking eyes. We're talking about building fucking hot rods.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of It's All About the Build podcast. As always, you have me, Elliot Slack, accompanied by my wife, Melanie.
Hello.
As always, we got Randy in the house.
Hey, hey.
And today we have a very, very special guest. Some call him the OG. I've heard it on other podcasts, had to throw it in again. But like I said, we are on location down here in Columbia, Tennessee, which isn't far from where Melanie and I moved from to get to Indiana. And this guy, I'm going to read a little introduction, and if you guys can't guess who he is by this introduction, you're going to be able to tell by his voice, because his voice is unique. And, you know, if the TV was on and this guy's voice was on, I knew where it was coming from, what hole it was coming out of, right? So without further ado, so here's a little introduction here. This guy has been a freelance automotive journalist since 2002. He worked for such automotive magazines and publications as Mustang and Ford's, Mustang Monthly, Southern Rodder, Northern Rodder, Ford Performance Trucks, and several online websites and blogs. He appeared on Classic Rides on DIY Network, guest appearances on Spike Network, Search and Restore, as well as 9 seasons of hosting and co-producing the popular Trucks, where you can find him on over 200 episodes. If you haven't figured it out yet, we're going to keep going. He has worked closely with the Eastwood company as a spokesperson and consultant, as well as co-producing and starring in the popular online TV series Hands on Cars in 2015. He holds a U.S. patent for tool designs and is currently developing training guides and hand tools for auto body and restoration work. Since 1999, he has produced the award-winning Paintucation instructional series focusing on fundamental automotive restoration and refinishing techniques, and now has since developed curriculum for hands-on training classes for a private training center here in Tennessee, which is where we are seated right now. His passion for auto body repair and his ability to communicate effectively on camera has pretty much put this guy in the OG category. So, without further ado, we have Kevin Tetz.
It's really nice to be here with you guys. That was, I thought you were talking about somebody else for about a half an hour there.
It was long-winded. I apologize.
Yeah, kind of a trip down memory lane for me too. So thanks for inviting me to your cast. It's always fun to talk with people, especially builders, right? You know, because we can speak the same language, and it's always just fun to be around people with other experience.
Yeah, I feel like you are exactly what we're trying to get across with this podcast. I've said it over and over and over again. We're trying to get a behind the scenes type of feel and people that are actually interested in teaching. And what you're developing here with Paintucation, for those of you that aren't watching this on YouTube, you can't miss the logo in the background here. Tell us a little bit about Paintucation right off the bat. You don't have to go into the whole detail, but tell us what you're doing here.
So what I'm doing is kind of an extension of what I've been trying to do for a long time. This is kind of a second career, or maybe even a third career for me. Paintucation, I coined that name because all the good names were gone, and I couldn't find something that wasn't already trademarked. But it combines my passions, painting, automotive restoration, repair, and training and education. And the reason I'm so passionate about what started my drive for training was people not being willing to give me advice when I was first cutting my teeth, when I needed help, and when I needed a leg up. And I'll just tell the story. The first collision shop that not the first one that I ever worked with, but the first one where they ever trusted me with a paint gun. My first paint job was a Jeep XJ Cherokee, right?
Yeah.
95 different square corners on that sucker.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of sharp style lines. And it was a cold winter day, and the booth didn't have heat. And I went in there, and I'm doing my first base clear paint job, right? And it was charcoal gray. I relive it traumatized because I go in for the first coat of clear, and I'm hanging runs off of every corner of this thing, and it looks terrible. I come out of the booth, and I talked to the shop owner, and I said, hey, man, I'm making a mess. Can you come and help me? And he said, hell no. Oh. I had to learn it the hard way, get in there and fix it.
Wow, right off the bat.
Oh, yeah.
Throw you to the wolves.
And it stuck.
Sounds like
me.
a Randy story.
And so for sure. So when the idea came up to where I got bold enough to think I could do tutorials and do an instructional video, which that idea came from the music industry, but I'll talk about that in a second. But when I first started to dream about this paint your own car video, I thought, well, you know what? I hate that guy because he didn't want to help me. Why didn't he want to help me? He could have easily helped me. And one of the things my wife instilled in me, she's an educator also, and she's a teacher and a trainer and an instructor. And just because you pass on the skills that you have doesn't mean that you don't have them anymore. And that is kind of like my mantra anyway. So that made it okay for me to think that I could produce a video on fundamentals. I've never been the greatest painter in the world, but I know how to explain it, and I know what I know. Most importantly, I know what I don't know. So I felt like I could put together a really good tutorial on the basics of how to do a paint job. And that's what started the whole thing. And it was kind of the antithesis of what the experience I had with this guy in the shop. And I want to be the anti that guy, and maybe be the guy that can help some people sometimes. And that's what started it all out. But if you go back to my first career, trying to be a wannabe musician, in Guitar Center, in all the big guitar stores, you'd see these racks of CDs and DVDs of guitar players showing their guitar techniques, right? Instructional videos on how to do Randy Rhoads technique and how to do Yngwie Malmsteen and all the guys, right? So I knew there was a market for that. And my wife, with the dance school that she had for 30 plus years, she would buy a choreography video just to keep fresh, different trends, different styles of dance and things like this. And there was catalogs full of these different videos. I thought, you know what? Nobody's really doing fundamentals with cars. Craig Frazier was doing these elaborate airbrush videos. And then at the end of the video, he'd say, okay, well, that's done. We're going to send it off to the clear coat guy. And, so he wasn't talking about, he was Craig Frazier, but he wasn't talking about fundamental prep. And I thought, maybe I can create a video on fundamental prep. Maybe. And so that was the nucleus of all of Paintucation. That was a long freaking time ago.
It's funny. That gray paint probably ended up in your beard.
Huge inspiration. And, all of our motivation doesn't come from positive experiences, right? And so, I feel like if I've helped people along the way over the last 25 years of doing this, then maybe it's mission accomplished. And what I'm doing now is a more elevated form of the same type of thing. It's all fundamentals. You guys know this. Yep. From metal shaping to fabrication to upholstery to paint, everything, it all revolves around fundamentals. The way I relate to it is this. The chain of procedure is long and complex. Each individual link of that chain is stupid simple. Otherwise, guys like us wouldn't be able to do it.
You're not lying.
But
there it is.
Rim shot.
Yeah.
I love that. But you know what I mean. I'm self-deprecating to a fault, but I just felt bold enough to where I could do it, and it's evolved over the years, and I failed for about a year and a half trying to sell videos. I was on the tool trucks that would come around to the body shops because I'm working full-time in collision repair at this time, right? And so I found out really quickly that a fundamental skills video on painting, body shop guys that were, earning six figures spraying cars in a body shop, they're not going to buy that video. Mm-hmm. So selling to a professional market, no, didn't work. How do I get to a DIY market? Go to magazines. Couldn't afford magazines. Magazine advertisement is very expensive. So I made deals with local magazines, Southern Northern Otter. They were regional magazines. I said, I'll write you text stories, and if you would give me a vertical third in the back of the book. And that worked out. So I did trade. So I taught myself how to be a journalist. I got taken under the wing by some really important guys, some very, very great friends these days and mentors and people from the old Peterson days and the Source Interlink days. They took me under wing, taught me digital photography, things like that. So I learned those skills from contemporaries and people that, again, gave a crap about passing on their skills to somebody like me that wanted to learn. So I was able to promote Paintucation that way. And then I ran into the Eastwood company, who is DIY Central, right?
Oh, big time.
And they took me on as a product, and my product line grew literally because of them. My TV experience grew because of them, because their buyers knew Stacy David and the people on DIY Network, and I was able to weasel my way into guest appearances on DIY, and that landed me a series, and I did some paint jobs for Stacy David, and that kind of put me on the map as well, as generated a lot of sales. He would I painted several vehicles for him, but he would say, hey man, if you want to learn how to do a paint job like this, check out Kevin's video on the Eastwood company.
Boom.
On a Saturday morning. And then on Monday, I'll never forget this phone call from one of the buyers at Eastwood. He said, I don't know what you did, but keep on doing it. And by the way, and the purchase order was massive. So that taught me the power of television. So that was like, okay, gee, I get a mention on Stacy's show and it blows up. What could I do if I had my own show?
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of a extension of the DIY videos that I was doing anyway. I was self-taught and all that kind of stuff, but I figured out how to be okay on camera and not stumble through lines and all that kind of stuff. And some of the music business taught me that as well. But anyway, I'm crisscrossing and jumping over decades and years worth of stuff, but it's kind of the roundabout way that all this stuff happened, right? And it all comes from that push, that gut feeling that we all have to do better, to do more. What can I do? How can I get here? It's a challenge. And we're I think hardwired to spring towards a challenge, whether we're afraid of it or not. I like to think so. I think most people are wired like that.
Well, growth comes from challenge. You know, you're not growing sitting on your ass on the couch.
No,
by any means.
Mm-mm. No, growth comes from failure.
Yeah,
it comes from disappointing, chin-busting, bloody nose failure. It does. And then you pick up and you dust off and you figure out what you did wrong, and then you don't do that ever again.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, failure only occurs because you quit. You know what I mean? Like, you're never going to fail if you just keep going, We did a round table last year, Triple Crown of Hot Rodding, and I was a moderator of it, and there was some amazing people were there because they were all at that show. So we managed to wrangle people together. I'm working with Automotive Direct, and I'll be at that booth again for Triple Crown this year. But it was me, Steve Mank, Chip Foose, Dave Kindig, and Jesse Greening. If you can imagine talking about hot rodding. Wow, that was fun stuff. But one of the things that Chip said, there's a couple Chip Foose quotes that I'll never forget. But one of them is, failure is not failure. Mistakes aren't failure. They are just telling us what doesn't work. Right.
I mean, it's as simple as that. But how do we wrap our mind around that? We have to work on that mindset, right? We have to work on a spin, if you will. And it's not lying to yourself. It's taking what experience you have and rolling it into a ball and growing from it. And but it takes work, like everything else. That muscle takes work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's funny, like we were talking before we started this podcast, like I came across you again because of wanting to learn more. And we came across Paintucation, and I was like, this dude's still doing it, and that's why we reached out, because, reading about Paintucation and wanting to get into that, I realized that I've worked for a lot of shops, and each one of them, like, we took a welding course last year, and literally I've welded for years, but in like the first week of the class, I learned more shit about welding in the first week. Yeah. And I've been welding for years. Mm-hmm. And it's because every guy I've ever asked about welding couldn't tell me, because they don't know either. Or it takes some balls to tell people that this is the way I think you should do it, and this is why. But you have the why behind it, is what it seems like, and that's That's what I crave for. Randy craves for it. That's why we work together.
Well, for sure. Well, and recently here in the last couple of months, I've decided to do a hard, strong push on my YouTube channel. And it's really empowering because it's a different forum than what television is. And I've done a couple of things where I ask people to send me questions in, and I just sit there for an hour and answer their questions and do little demos and examples and stuff like that. And, it is what it is. I don't know everything, but I know what I know, and I know what I don't know, which is more important. And so it's this really interesting thing where you learn more from the people that are asking you questions than they learn from you answering them. And that's the way I look at training and education. And there's always something to learn. Ron Covell, we know who Ron Covell is, right? Metal shaper. He's got a fine arts degree in sculpture. Amazing. He goes all over the world doing metal shaping training. And his classes are mostly lecture style. So it's 30, 40 guys around an English wheel and Ron talking about and doing demos. It's very little hands-on. But I've never come away from a Covell class not being richer for the knowledge. It's amazing and every single time, I've known Ron for 15 years, and every single time I even talk to this guy on the phone, I learned something. And, I'm putting together these training courses, which I hope we can get into talking about for trade schools, for college collision repair programs, talking about aluminum repair. And I needed video of annealing.
Oh, I guess you can hear it.
I can hear it now.
Is that my air conditioner?
It's either that or compressor.
Oh, that's a heater.
Oh, that's the heater.
I'm steamy here. I don't know why that heater's on. What the heck? All right, so welcome to my place in Tennessee, right? Random stuff. Anyway, but yeah, so we're back. But we always learn. We're constantly in the process of learning. Now, whether we want to acknowledge that or not, I've run into so many people that stand there with their arms crossed. I did back and forth with a guy who was commenting on my YouTube channel about something I said about etch primer not being compatible with polyester primer surfacers. And I basically said, kind of stay away from that technology because it's old technology. Well, it's still current technology, and it's not bad technology, but there's incompatibility when you're working with polys and things like that. And what is polyester? It's fiberglass, it's Bondo, it's glazing putty, it's high build poly primer fillers. There's a lot of poly in our world, in the custom world. So I tend to not ever open that can. So that was my best advice to the person that has the question. And the guy wanted to debate me, and that's fine. I don't know everything, and I don't know what he knows. He's 24 years in. So we went back and forth, and he kind of came at me aggressively. And it's like, okay, that's fine. I'm not new. I've been poked fun at before. My first co-host on the truck show was Paul Vinson, and he was a retired WCW wrestler. And when
I didn't know that.
Yes, he was quickly replaced by Ryan Shand, who was my co-host for 10 years. But Paul was picked by the network. Paul has his own credibility, and he's Paul. But he wasn't a real car guy. But anyway, it didn't go over great because it was Stacy, and then it was me and this guy. And so I was called, who's this wrestler? Why is he barking at me? And who's this turd burgling sidekick?
Hey, there it is.
So I was called a turd burgling sidekick. And I will tell you here and now, I have never once burgled a turd. Not even once. Not even thought about it, not even dreamt it up.
I may be a little bit young, but I don't even know what that means.
Turd burgling?
Think about it. Self-explanatory.
There we go, Randy.
So my point in that is when we put ourselves in a public forum, we have to take some tomatoes sometimes, right? We're going to get in these days of the anonymous keyboard warriors, people are just going to be calloused and cold, and that's fine. So if we have a thin skin, then we don't survive it, and then we go away, we do something else, and we say, I don't want to do a podcast anymore.
For me as a person, I still don't do that stuff. I don't get any kind of fulfillment with doing that, trying to argue with people over the internet or make fun of somebody or beat somebody down over the internet just because I can.
Now,
Well, the only one who wins is the one who's like, well, you're an asshole. That's the winner.
Yeah. But, I'm part of a Facebook forum, and there's 250-something thousand members in this Facebook Auto Body Repair and Fundamentals forum. That's what it's called.
Okay.
And the gallery is amazing. Some newbie will come in and ask a question that he maybe should know the answer to, or maybe he just doesn't know the answer to. Oh, my gosh. People jump on that person, and they just roast those people.
Big
and
time.
It's sport. But here's the interesting thing that I've learned. And I can shut that heater off if you want.
Yeah,
No, I think it's the AC.
Is it the AC?
I think it's the AC because I'm feeling pretty good now.
I see the curtain blowing there in my curtain wall. The thermostat is there behind that air hose. Do you want me to run?
If you want to, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's just bugging me. I gotta go. I'm OCD. I can't help it.
My glasses keep fogging up. Guess I could take my shirt off, huh?
Just the outer shirt, Randy.
Yeah. I just still podcasting with no shirt on.
All right, I'm back now. So the point I wanted to make was that people are heartless, cruel, and they think they're funny on the web, on the internet. Those same people, when they meet you at a trade show or a car show, will shake their hand, will shake my hand. If they dog me on the internet, it's the same guy that's going to shake my hand and say, "Hey, how you doing? I watched you on TV for years."
Can I get an autograph?
Okay. And I don't hate that guy. I don't resent that guy, but I understand the mechanism. I understand the anonymity and the power of being anonymous on those forums. And it's okay, I guess, but I know that it's not that guy. It's not the real person. That's not who they are. They're just playing a character of keyboard warrior.
Oh, yeah.
So I just let it roll off my back.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
That's the best thing to do.
if you're not getting haters, you're not doing it right.
Oh yeah, people don't disagree with you. Nobody will ever make everybody happy.
Yeah.
Ever.
And that's the last thing. I'm definitely not trying to appeal anybody. We have a certain type of individual we shoot for as clients and stuff like that.
Yep.
And obviously on the podcast, if you don't like the F word, I apologize, but it's just what happens out of my mouth sometimes. I'm a hillbilly from Pennsylvania. My grandma used to swear at me like that. It just,
Yeah, right.
That's how I grew up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some of those words are way more acceptable now than they were ever before, even in television standards, right? It's all changed.
It's amazing.
I watched a news show the other day and somebody said something about pissed off. And this was on network news.
Yeah.
And they said pissed off on network news. Holy, that's wild, Anyway.
I don't mind it. I like it. Bring a little bit into it.
So we're meandering. I'll let you know, I had 3.5 cups of coffee this morning and it has not worn off.
Nice. Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good. No, this is good talk already. And I don't even know what question I need to get into. Okay, so you talked about, I guess I was going to say, hey, Kevin, introduce yourself. But I think we covered that.
I think
pretty
you
much
did.
right now.
Yeah,
You did. I'm humbled. You did a nice job. I want to mention one more magazine that I worked for, and it was Carcraft. Carcraft for me. I read Carcraft when I was a little kid. I got to be friends with John McGann, who is the editor of Carcraft at the time. John's still a dear friend. Now he's editor-in-chief at Hot Rod magazine. He's reached the top of the heap. I'm so proud of him.
That's awesome.
Proud for him. But I worked hand in hand with John McGann for several years at Carcraft. And I wasn't a staff writer. I was a freelancer. But a couple of my project vehicles were magazine projects. And my Z-Sled Camaro was a magazine project. And it was just such a cool thing to be able to work for an iconic magazine that I read, flipped the pages that my dad bought when he was a kid and a hot rodder. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I want to shout out to not only John McGann, but Carcraft magazine in the memory of that. We did actually a Motor Trend short TV series called Carcraft TV. John was a co-host and he had, John was a host or the anchor, if you will, and he had revolving co-hosts. My buddy Ryan Shan, my co-host from Trucks, did an LS swap into a BMW E90. We did a 351 Windsor swap into a Mustang, and so he had a bunch of different people co-hosting. So I think that program is still going. The production is now on the West Coast instead of here in Tennessee. But Ian Johnson, Extreme Off-Road, He produced the series. He's not only is he on Motor Trend, he's doing some other TV stuff, but he also has his own production company. He's doing stuff for a lot of different people. You'd be surprised.
That's pretty badass. That's
Yeah.
a good plug. That's a good plug right there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So you had mentioned about playing guitar or being a singer, and you were talking about failure. I don't think if for those of you that don't know. This dude had long hair and a purple stripe and all sorts of stuff. In
Oh,
your
I can
hair,
show
right?
you pictures that would just blow your mind.
Yeah, and he was
Absolutely,
a front man. He was the lead dude. And when we discussed coming down here for a podcast, he dropped Robert Plant, and people think Led Zeppelin's a human being, and so same with Leonard Skinner, shit like that. But Robert Plant, he dropped Robert Plant stuff and just talking about Led Zeppelin 4, and all that stuff. So yeah, tell us a little bit about that, because you're talking about failure. I don't think you failed at that. I think you just pretty much you had to your voice gave out.
Yeah, I didn't choose to quit the music industry. I couldn't do it anymore. So I started playing music. We had a little weekend band. I was 13 years old. We started playing music. We started playing in bars in that band when I was 14. The band was called Galaxy. Kenny and Danny Saprican, the Saprican brothers, and Pam McGinnis was the lead singer. And it was a four-piece band. And we did like the Legion, and we did little school gigs and stuff like that. And we got better. We got pretty good. And then we started doing bars, and we were like 15 years old. Kenny's dad would have to usher us in, on the breaks. We would have to walk out the back door and stay outside during our breaks and stuff like that. So, started playing professionally when I was very, very young. And of course, you get better at it. And when I decided that I wanted to get the hell out of this tiny little small town that I was living in, then the best way for me to do that was to jump on the road to the rock band. And I've got years worth of stories about all of that stuff and all of those road years, but it was really great training in a lot of ways, running a small business, people skills, all that kind of stuff, as well as becoming a better musician. And I wanted to be the best musician I possibly could. And so I'm self-taught. I'm not a trained musician, but I play guitar. I play a little bit of the drums. I'm self-taught on keyboards. I play bass. I started out playing bass. And I had a vocal coach everywhere we stopped. Everywhere. Calgary, Toronto, in Orlando. I studied with really great coaches, and it was important for me to be a good singer. And I'm not going to say I didn't partake in things, but I was the healthiest I was ever in my life. I ran 2 miles every 2 days. I didn't eat red meat, and it was just because I wanted that physical training to come through my voice.
Look.
Right.
Well, not only the look, but the aerobic, the physical.
Your core.
Well, your core, absolutely. Yeah. Singing is your whole body's the instrument. It's not just your mouth and your face. Though your whole body, the support mechanism, your lower back, believe it or not, is as important for vocal production as your diaphragm. And so it's a big balancing act, right? So we got better. I traveled all over the place. A lot of almost production company this and almost signed that and all these things and touring and all that stuff. And I ended up, I had vocal fatigue and I didn't know how to deal with it. And I didn't have the money to go see an ENT, and I just kept on singing and doing that. I was singing from the wrong place, and then I ruined the support mechanism, which is diaphragm and not just lungs, but diaphragm and proper relaxation in your mask and all that type of stuff. Again, I could talk about all those terms, but basically I blew my voice out. And when you're a singer that can't sing, you got to do something else. And I was married at the time. Judy and I had just gotten married, and I was either going to be a rock star and make a lot of money, or I was going to get an actual job and make a lot of money and do my part for our household, right? And so it I'll tell you when it was over. And I don't know that I've told this story on a podcast before, but when I knew music was over for me, because I lied to myself for years, thinking, I can if I just practice a little harder at this and that, blah, blah, blah. And I lied to myself for years. I started a band that was half original stuff that I had written. We were going to do clubs, covers, and try and do, and it was kind of Nashville rock, Black Crowes type of stuff. That was, not hard rock, which is where I cut my teeth when I was a kid. And that was the music that I sang on the road for the most time. Screaming ass hard rock. Like I had a 4-octave vocal range and I could hit all the notes.
Yeah.
Man. I was really good. But I went in for a rehearsal one day to the band I started, and they had fired me.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah,
Are you
they said
serious?
all my stuff was over in the corner.
Wow.
My mic stand, all the cords, all the cables. I had a couple power amps, all that kind of stuff. And they said, well, we got this guy. You're kind of inconsistent. You can't hit the notes sometimes, all that kind of stuff. I got fired from my own band.
That's insane.
I was crushed. I was crushed, man. So spiritually, physically, all that kind of stuff.
No,
It was
no
like,
warning, no nothing. Just
Nope.
show up and
yep.
wow.
So if there's ever a sign from the universe,
Here's your
take it. Absolutely, man. So anyway, so that was it. So I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm done. I tried to be a writer. I tried to do all the songwriters community shows up in Nashville. There's a huge songwriting community, and it was humbling to get up in there because there's crazy, great, talented people in the songwriting community there. And I didn't have the 10 years of my life to get good at that, to be on par with the people that weren't even successful, but they were just great. So it was like, that was it. I was in my early 30s, and it was like, I'm done. It's over. Music is over. And as crushing and as devastating as that was, and it sounds dramatic for me to say it was crushing and devastating. I had been singing professionally since I was 14 years old. That was my plan A.
That's a small
period.
lifetime right there.
That's your whole life.
Oh, 100%.
Flipped upside down.
No plan B. I cross-trained in different shops. I thank God I did. I worked at a couple of great shops. I worked at a terrible shop, but I worked in body shops when the bands broke up and stuff like that. I worked in L.A., a place called Alejandra Porsche, exclusive German and British automobiles, and I learned how to block sand. I learned how to cut and rub. I learned how to sweep the floor really well, which pays off.
That's a good one. That's like the first thing, especially going into a green. Well, I guess you weren't going into a green at that point in time, were you?
I grew up around it. I grew up around cars too.
So your dad wasn't your dad into this stuff?
My dad's.
I don't mean to take the words out of your mouth.
No,
or
it's all
anything,
good, but it's interesting. My dad was a paint and body guy. We lost him last year, but he was.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. And he was, of course, a big influence for me. Watched him paint cars in our driveway. I would hose the grass down in between coats, so that type of stuff. So I watched him and his best friend in high school. And him married 2 sisters. So my Aunt Leslie and my mom were sisters, and their kids, Glenn, Wayne, and Alan Pinsky. We grew up around old cars. My Uncle Herb had a salvage yard, cars from the 20s up into the 60s, and like hundreds and hundreds of these old cars. Awesome. So we grew up.
Playground.
I'm telling you, man. We would get up on the motor
Give
pile.
me a 6-pack and I'll just sit there
cylinder
and
heads
stare at
off
shit.
and stuff like that. It was this great thing. And I can still smell those old cars, the early 40s Chevys and all that type of stuff. And anyway, so that was how we communicated. That's where I really developed my love of cars, is through family. And that was our communication. That was our field of dreams, right? You know? Mm-hmm. So all of that came naturally as well. And my dad was a singer too. He wanted to be Elvis Presley, and so he sang up until the day that he died, and he was good at it also. But so I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Maybe, yeah.
Real quick, what was your sound like? Your actual voice, was it really clean? And
where can we find this? How about that? Where can I find some Kevin Tetz?
There's a video on
We're gonna have to
YouTube.
find
It's a live show we did with a group called Nova Rex in 1987 in Long Beach, and I've got a music video that we did with the last real group I was with in 1989, I think, in LA, called Sin City. We had that was really
that was the band name, Sin City.
Sin City,
hell yeah,
Sin City,
and
it's a good AC/DC song.
It was a bunch of Swedes, and they needed an English-speaking singer. Yeah, they had it going on. The virtuoso guitar player Johan Pinet, and more hair than any male humans should ever have. I've got a picture. I'll show you. It'll blow your gourd. But they hired me to be their singer, and we did the thing, and did a national tour. Came back, did label showcases in L.A. and the A&R guys. I said, "Yeah, you guys are good. We just signed Nirvana." Here's what you need to sound like.
No shit,
Come
wow.
back in 6 months, look like this, sound like this, change your songs, and then we'll talk.
Wow.
What do you do
can't-
then?
You can't
So
do that.
no, and I was broke in LA. Judy and I had just gotten married, and I got the call to give this gig, and so bless her for saying, "Yeah, I think it's worth it too. Go for it." So my first year of marriage, most of it I spent in LA, and she was in Tennessee. So talk to me about faith in somebody,
Yeah,
right?
right. Mhm.
So and it was an amazing gesture on her part, and I promised that I would know when it was over. And when it was over, we focus on something else. And that moment, when I got fired from my own band, it was over.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. So anyway, so I know I'm bouncing around all over the place, but you guys are fun to talk to.
Oh, hell yeah.
But
no, it's funny because, long time ago, I applied to try to get into Berklee College of Music up in Boston.
wow.
And
What's your instrument?
I played guitar.
Yeah.
But it was all like sit around the campfire, get stoned and just play.
Yeah.
It's basically
Yeah.
what it was. And, me and a buddy of mine, we would like play for hours. People would just like, Elliot and Seth are here. Just keep bringing them beer. Just
Yeah.
keep feeding them beer. And,
They'll keep playing tunes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And but we were just making it up. We weren't even,
It's so funny
it
that
wasn't
you
even
say
anything
that.
good. Like, it was good, but it wasn't like, this is, it wasn't sing along. It was just like, these two are just going nuts over here.
Yeah. Yeah.
All acoustic,
Some friends of mine in high school that weren't even in the band that I was in, we all played guitars, and they were big into Neil Young and Crosby, Stills and Nash, Joni Mitchell, those types of artists that I didn't really even know anything about until I started hanging out with these guys more. And they would do these jam. We'd get hammered. Like you said, and just keep, we had a piano in Mark's dad's place and guitars, and we would just jam. And it was glorious. It was really great, and it was immersing me into a music style that I didn't really even gravitate towards. And then you get inside it, and then you appreciate it, and you understand the artistry and the amazing technical skill of Joni Mitchell on every aspect, from songwriting to vocal ability, all that type of stuff. So, people have asked me before, "Who's my favorite singer?" And I go, "Yeah." Yeah. It's anybody that gives a shit about it. Anybody that has passion for it. Luciano Pavarotti, Beverly Sills, opera singers that will make you cry and make the hair stand up on your arms. You don't even have to know what language they're speaking or singing in. And if they can bring emotion out of somebody, that's who I gravitate to. And it's like so many rock singers and blues singers are like that, right? Those are the people that I like. Those are the people that these days, when I'm a fan and a listener, that's who I love.
Mm-hmm. That's how it is when we go to karaoke with Randy. We get drunk and Randy gets up on stage. And my hair's stand up
with all my passion and
Well, with the mustache, you got to have.
That's right.
Yeah.
There it is, the mustache.
No, I like karaoke. And it's the only time
It's
I do
fun,
get to
man.
sing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And not
for sure.
in front of people, not just in the car.
Yeah.
I like singing in front of people I don't know because then I don't care if they don't like me or not.
We're stuck with them. So
I got
even if
a
we don't like it, we still-
karaoke story. So all of us knuckleheads from Power Block got invited. We were working with AutoZone, right? So they're headquartered in Memphis. Memphis has Beale Street, right? So we go and we do this convention with AutoZone, and there's me, Joe Elmore from Horsepower, Ian Johnson from the Off-Road Show, Johnny Bouchard, Tommy Bushers, everybody more, and we're like 6 guys or 8 guys deep, trouncing down Beale Street looking for a place to have beer and stuff like that. And I looked at Joe Elmore. Joe Elmore is a musician also. Do you remember Joe? The Horsepower Show?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So you would
Horrible
to see him.
names.
See, I'm a little young. I did watch those, your guys' shows back in the day. I was, in high school or whatever, whenever.
You were 2.5 years old.
No,
Randy.
I wasn't 2.5 years old. I did like every Saturday morning, Saturday and Sunday, Sunday
Yeah,
morning.
watch the
That's
Power
what I
Block.
was watching.
Right.
That was the only thing that was on that, my family could afford at the time as far as like cable goes.
Yeah.
But my family was watching something outside. I'm in my room watching, this stuff every
Car shows.
weekend. And
So people call me OG, but Joe Elmore and Chuck Hansen are OG. They are the first two guys that did automotive television, automotive how-to television particularly. Not automotive television, I don't want to overspeak, but automotive how-to television. That was Chuck and Joe. And Joe Elmore had a background in music as well as he was on the TV news. He had that radio voice and all that kind of stuff. And he was he's a super great guy. Still is. If he's listening to this, hi, Joe. But I looked at him and I said, Joe, I had this crazy dream that we came here and you and I went into a club. They recognized you. And then you called me up on stage. We had this great jam session with this Memphis blues group. And he's, Kevin, that'd be awesome, wouldn't it? And Ian Johnson with spiky hair, he looks at me, he said, KT, he said, I think I can make your dreams come true. Follow me. Because he saw this club that said karaoke. So we all go over there. We may or may not have been about 6 beers deep at this time. And we go to this karaoke club and we tore that place down. And Ian can sing, and Joe Elmore was up there doing Mustang Sally and all that kind of stuff. So we had such a blast. And so, it's the whole karaoke thing. It just reminded me of that. Oh, it was a great time. Yeah. And totally forgiving. And it didn't matter if I couldn't, hit the notes or anything like it. It was about having fun with my buddies. And, and it was very cool. So that's, if there's ever a great reason to do music, it's that, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen some crazy videos of him. I don't think that...
I wouldn't call that karaoke. I was the hype man. I was the hype man, basically. I was the little John.
Yeah. But I didn't do music. I stopped music and I hated it. I thought it was wasted time. I was so pissed off at myself that I'd wasted 10 years of my adult life, and I felt like I had a lot of catching up to do. And so my guitars were in the closet. That's not a metaphor. I put them in the cases, I put it away. And I focused on automotive, and then I had this wild hair with Paintucation, and that became my new focus and all that kind of stuff. And my guitars literally didn't come out of the cases for about 12, 13 years. Wow. And then it happened for the right reasons. And I started to play again and started to actually kind of fall in love with music again, because the band that I was in, we played at the Lipstick Lounge in East Nashville, which is, it wins awards all the time. It's a great club, great owners. It's a gay club in East Nashville, and it's so chill. Nobody bugs anybody. Nobody judges anybody for anything. Nashville heavyweights come in there because it's so low key. Nobody bugs anybody. We've seen stars come in and out of there. It was great. We had a gig first Friday of every month. It was cover band, all 80s wannabes cover band. It was awesome. We did, the Brick House and the Lionel Richie stuff and AC/DC stuff and all. It was just this mix of things. And it was doing music for the sake of doing music and having fun and getting the joy out of it. And the joy had been robbed of that for me. So it was fun to kind of circle back and have that. And you talk about Justin Nichols. When Justin was a guest on Search and Restore, I think him and his crew came out to watch one of our gigs at the Lipstick.
No way.
Yeah, for sure.
I can see that. Yeah, those guys are cool, man.
Yeah. And Rob Ida, when he was a guest, Rob Ida he works on the Tuckers. Rob is amazing. You've got to talk to Rob.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, man, you got to.
I was big into when I was in college. We watched the Tucker movie because there was, we did quite a bit of random shit, just learning about entrepreneurship and stuff in that class, and learned about Tucker and learned about people building them now, and
amazing stuff.
It is
for sure. So the full circle moment was actually falling in love with music again. And on my office, I've got a guitar hanging on the wall. I've got a little amp tucked underneath one of my desks, and I call it my therapy guitar. So when I need to unplug and purge my brain, I turn it wide open and slam out some power chords and some handles, and then I shut it off, and then that's my purge, right? So anyway, it's kind of fun therapy that way anymore.
Now, do you still sing? Can you sing? Like, is it? You're just playing guitar now.
I have moments. I have moments where it's fine. What ended up happening? So the reason that I have trouble singing consistently now is because I was singing so poorly that I gave myself a hiatal hernia.
Oh, okay.
So my diaphragm literally broke.
Yeah.
The valve that keeps all your stomach fluids in, I put so much pressure on it that it tore. And now instead of I thought it was sinus drainage for years, and I was going to see an ENT and all that kind of stuff, and had sinus surgery and all that kind of stuff, and I still had this stuff collecting on my vocal cords, and my voice would break and all that stuff, and through there you learn bad production and all that kind of stuff. But what I didn't know is that what was collecting on my vocal cords was coming up the other way.
Right.
Yeah, because I had a hiatal hernia.
Yeah.
And so if I don't watch my diet, if I don't watch my weight and all that kind of stuff, and which sometimes I don't. I won't lie. I don't. I shouldn't drink beer, but I do. So, but I found out that they did the scope and all that kind of stuff. And so when there's times when I can get through a couple songs and I'm fine, and then all of a sudden it's like, somebody packed a bunch of poop down in my throat, and I can't, it's like I'm constantly clearing my throat. And you can't, when your vocal cords are all caked up with it seems like phlegm, or whatever. It sounds gross, and it is kind of, but that's what stops me from singing consistently. So it's hit and miss.
Yeah.
So can I sing? Do I remember the mechanism? Yes, sure. I took some training. There's a vocal coach. His name is Ken Tamplin. He was a contemporary Christian artist and great rock singer. Now he has this online training school. And
see the guy with long hair?
Yeah.
Kind of uses his, like when he sings, his tongue kind of, he uses so much that I had no idea you should use.
Yeah.
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 I think so I know exactly who you're talking about.
I took his training, retrained my core, and figured out how to support again. And that's helped me a lot. Yeah. So I don't know. Every once in a while, I think, you know what? Maybe. But I'm having so much fun, and the automotive career and the rewards from all of this stuff they're tenfold what music ever gave me back. Music never rewarded me, other than, of course, there's egotistical gratification when you're on stage. You have a great night and all that kind of stuff, and you feel great, or you record something that sounds good and all that stuff. Of course, there's rewards for it, but the way that automotive has paid me back is so different than the way music did. With music, it didn't matter how hard I tried. It didn't matter how good I was.
Yeah.
It mattered about timing, and if you're at the right place at the right time and know the right people at the right place at the right time, and you're on the front side of the pendulum and not the back side of the pendulum within that 2.5 year gap of the 5-year cycle.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're the pinpoint.
In a nutshell, I'd imagine. Yeah.
That's pretty much it. So no, I the harder I work with automotive, the more I get paid, right? The more hours I turn in a collision shop, the more money I make, the more I can take care of my family. And the music industry was never like that for me. So when that light bulb got turned on for me, that's when I said, okay, I'm going to get certified in everything that I can get certified in. I'm going to take every cert class, every color correction class. I'm going to jump in both feet. I'm going to be that guy that holds the class up, because the rest of them want to go to the strip club at the certification class in Atlanta. And I'm standing there with my hand up because I want to know what that instructor said. I want him to explain his last. So I'm that guy.
Yeah.
And I was passionate about it because I fell in love with the fact that the more I knew, the better I got. And the better I got, the more I made. And it was this self-fulfilling thing. And it became this really interesting process for me, and it taught me to fall in love with learning, especially about this trade and about the chemistry and all these types of things with everything that we got to deal with, and the troubleshooting aspect of it, and how something goes horribly wrong. How do you figure it out? The only way I could figure it out was by taking information from other people. So as a technician in the trades, in collision repair and restoration, I fell in love with learning about it, right? So, and I guess that's what I try and pass on to people these days is, find that thing that we all have, and that light bulb that goes off. And when I teach in-person classes, which I rarely do these days, and I hope to do more of it, we can talk about that also. But when you actually see the light bulb go off and somebody gets it, oh man, what a reward that is. That's not financial. That's not tangible. No. Mm-hmm. It's gratifying, and it's I don't know, man. It's just neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know, that was the one thing that turned me towards yours, because there's other, you can get this shit for free on YouTube. You can get
a lot of stuff for free on YouTube.
Yeah. With automotive, you said about like the one thing that kind of makes you tick or whatever. Like when I decided to go to college, there's about one other thing that I can think of as far as like I need to know why. Like I need the why behind it. Automotive, this industry, building custom cars and hot rods. That's it for me. Mm-hmm. And then there's food.
Yeah.
And, you know, I need to, like, we watch Food Network all the time, babe. All the fucking time. And
Yeah.
I want to know why they're doing this. Like, why'd they put the lemon in that? Why did they put the lime in that? What's the
Cooking
acid?
is as much chemistry as any of this stuff ever. Probably more so. Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. We watch those cooking shows too. And, you know, Next Level Chef and all that kind of stuff. Those are great shows.
We got two episodes.
I won't say anything. Nope.
Don't say anything.
No.
I know we're getting down to the end. Don't tell me nothing.
You can tell me.
No, shut
down. Settle down.
Yeah, settle down, Randy. Don't hold that over my head for 2 weeks until I get done watching it. But yeah, we are talking about automotive painting here. Is what the plan was. But
We needed background.
yeah, I knew this.
No, we wanted to talk about the music stuff.
I'm just going to apologize out loud right now for whoever edits this because.
Oh no, these usually
place.
are like start to finish.
Totally good.
We
yeah.
try not to take too much out. Even the stuff that I want to take out, my wife makes me keep in.
Listen to her. One thing I've learned, I've been married for 34 years now. My wife knows things, and I need to own that.
Yeah.
I need to understand that.
I put my foot in my mouth every once in a while around her. And she's like, the world needs to hear this stuff. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, let's dive right into the Paintucation. I think we got a pretty good background and everything on well, I guess we can talk about how you got. Did we touch on how you got into TV? Because I think we've pretty much hit everything except for how you ended up there.
So
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No,
Yeah,
that's fine.
You're
Yeah.
good. Go ahead.
So the way I got into TV, I was talking with the buyer at the Eastwood company, and by that time they were a big distributor of Paintucation.
Yeah.
And I just confided in the guy. His name is John Sloan. I said, Mr. Sloan, I said, I want to get on TV shows like Stacey David's show and like Dennis Gage Classic Cars and all that kind of stuff. And I said, do you know how? So he gave me the name of a production company that they did product placement with, and I talked to a producer there, and he said it was a super great guy, and he said, here's what you need to do. You need to get good at presenting. He said, talk to yourself in a mirror, record your voice. If you can use an earpiece, that's a real good plus, and all that type of stuff. I didn't know what those things were, so I studied that, and I tried to get better, and then I was doing my own videos also, so that made me better. Experience is the ultimate teacher, right? So, and then John Sloan is actually the guy that introduced me to Stacey David. And I said, Stacey, I said, you know, when we were talking about stuff, and he was great. He was a super nice guy on the phone. We had a couple great conversations. And I said, I've got mustered up the courage to ask him if I could be on his show as a guest. And he said, no, but here's what we can do. I've got a couple projects that need painted. He said, if you can do this for me, I'll supply all the materials and all that type of stuff. We don't have a budget to pay you, but what we can do is when you've finished, we'll talk about your videos. And I went, yeah. That's a great deal.
The foot in the door.
And I was so stoked over that. You have no idea the people that told me that I was nuts for doing that he's taking advantage of you. He's getting your labor for free. People I worked for, the shop I worked for, because I was full-time in collision. You know, and people were saying, don't do it.
Yeah.
He's screwing you over. Family members said, you're stupid for doing this. And I knew. And Judy and I had the conversation. We have the conversation about everything. Every smart thing that I've ever done in my life has come from a conversation from her. So we had the conversation. She believed in it. I believed in it. And we did it. And I gave him great work. And he did what he said he was going to do. And he held up my video and talked about it on TV.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It was, dude.
Why not? Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
For sure.
Yeah.
And it brought me into television. I couldn't afford those ad buys.
Mm-hmm.
You have $60,000, $70,000, $100,000 to get on a TV show as a product sponsor like that. I couldn't do that. That's Edelbrock money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that they also knew Eastwood. John Sloan also knew somebody on DIY Network, and he was in touch with them. And they reached out to him and said, "Hey, we need a guest expert on paint finishing. Do you know anybody?" Because Eastwood is Eastwood, right? And they put me in touch with a producer on DIY that had a show called Classic Car Restoration. Yeah. And Mark Lambert was the host. They were restoring an old 36 Packard, I think. And they brought me on as a guest expert, how to fix rock chips, how to put paint into cold storage and things like just technical stuff. So I went on, did a segment, and I didn't suck. So they needed another expert. They called me back. Steve Mignanti was hosting that that same series a couple of seasons later, and I worked with Steve Mignonti. And then they came up, and Melissa Cross, the producer, she called me. She said, "Hey, we're casting, DIY's casting for another series. Are you interested?" And I said, "Let me think about it for a second." "Yes, I'm interested." So I did, and I got the gig, and that was Classic Rides. That was in 2004. So
Yeah,
that's what got me into
2004.
TV. So if I can say what got me into TV, the answer to that is being scared shitless, but brave enough to ask the question.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, I know you've been doing this a long time and everything like that, but all the videos the personal stuff that you've done to better your speaking and your personality, like, you know, it shows. You're one of my favorite people to watch. I think because you're just so passionate about it. I think about everything. And it all shows.
Oh, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. There's things that I remember. People say things and they stick. And one of them is that if you always tell the truth, you can get away with having a really short memory. You know,
Keep that in mind.
And so, for being on camera, if I don't try and act, if I don't try and be a character, if I don't try and be anything other than who I am, which is hard to do, man. It's hard to figure out how you really feel. And it's a very vulnerable and honest place that you have to come from to be yourself. And speaking to a device like that, that is cold and heartless and shows your warts and your nose hair and all that type. It's hard, man.
Yeah.
It's hard to unplug from our own ego and divorce ourselves from how we think we look and how we sound, the sound of our own voice. People
hate my sound.
Well,
I hate the sound of my voice.
and there's a reason for that. We all hate the sound of our own voice until we understand why it sounds different. And we can talk about that in a minute if you want to. But once you realize that, then it's totally different. But it's taken me a long time to unplug from giving a crap about how, you know, and with that comes the freedom. And it's not that I don't care. I care passionately about the message that I'm trying to put forth. And I care passionately about telling the truth and about helping people and guiding people into empowering themselves and creating small businesses or creating a good paint job or helping whatever. Those are the things that I'm passionate about. And if I can refine my presentation skills, if I can work on that a little bit more and critique myself and work hard on that and I get better at that, well, there's my reward, right? There's the bonus. And what you just said, thank you so much. I'm so humbled by that compliment.
You're
and
welcome.
It's very sincere. Yeah.
I mean, everything, all the hard work,
Thanks.
it shows.
Oh,
It
thanks.
shows you're genuine.
Yeah.
It's complete that you're genuine about it. You're not acting. I mean,
I'm a terrible actor. I did a high school theater program, and I kind of found my tribe because in high school we moved 13 times before I was 11 years old.
Wow.
And so I never had my pals that I grew up with until we so you know the drill. So when I found the high school theater, I sound so nerdy, but when I found the high school theater
lighting.
program,
Randy
I
can
did
hang
lighting
out all day.
Yeah, I did lighting for theater. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. So
I made fun of everybody for
no,
theater.
it's all good. It's all good. But that was when I figured out that I could do some of this stuff, you know, and I could get on stage and be, and it brought me out of my little kid shell and all of the whatever you want to call it, the trauma and all that kind of stuff that we all grow up with. Everybody has their stuff, and it kind of showed me, and it's proved to me over my life that if you just let go and if you just enjoy that process, it gives back, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry to get philosophical.
No, it's all good.
That's what we're all about.
You know, what's funny is you've mentioned stuff that maybe, you know, people, there's 98% of the people that listen to your stuff doesn't catch on, but I've heard podcasts where you talked about manifestation and the universe and shit like that. And that type of personality is what my wife and I are all about. And that's another reason we're here is because of that. That's your mentality.
Oh, well, thanks. You know, and those are things that I've learned. I had people turn me on to books when I was in my early 20s that changed my life, blew my mind.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's things that we can watch on Netflix. The Michael Jordan thing.
I saw
was
that.
it the dance?
Yeah.
When he talks about visualization, manifestation, all those
Yep.
types of things, you cannot deny his success. And those techniques were taught to me a long time ago. Visualization, what are you going to call vision boards? Tony Watley from 365 Driven talks
Yep.
about vision boards. And he's his mother was Japanese, and that's part of Asian culture is to have vision boards. That's inherent in that culture, and it's a new thing. It's a metaphysical woo-woo thing for Western civilization, but those are not new things. And so I was fortunate enough to work with some crazy MFers in my life, but also some people that were on a higher level spiritually, and they pass that stuff down to me. And it's not like I think I'm elevated. I don't. My feet are so firmly on the ground. The music industry beat the shit out of me. It did. It beat my ego into the ground. But and I've remained as humble as I was when I was shattered, because that's important to me. I don't ever put myself above anybody else. But I do know things, and I'm not young, and I'm proud that I've survived. I survived the '80s, man. I survived the '80s in rock and roll, and I lived through it. So if I could do that, I'm good to go, man. Let's go. Let's take on some new challenges.
Well, I feel like some people don't get the opportunity to fail like that.
No.
Not that you failed, but I'm saying like
don't fail. Hello, yes.
It was not, you weren't trying to. I mean, it was a bad thing happened, and then you had to deal with it. But not too many people get to experience that kind of an experience, and then start something fresh like that. I mean, some people go through their whole lives and not even.
Yeah, and
get that close.
Get slapped in the face like that,
and I don't wish poorly on anybody. But
learn from that kind of from that kind of a
that's a very
experience.
humbling outside of like.
Oh, for sure, yeah. It's a total restart, and it was the best thing. I am so glad that I didn't get the brass ring in music. I'm so glad that I didn't, because all of this stuff, the career that I've got now, I couldn't have dreamt it up, and it's not without its challenges. It's not without its, you're wondering, you're self-employed and you're looking 6 months over the horizon all the time. But and the places that it's taken me, I would have never, had I stayed in Canada or had I stayed in the music industry, I would have never been able to do what I'm doing now. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys in my training center that used to be my restoration shop. Who gets a restoration shop?
Right.
I got a paint booth with an air makeup, and I'm plumbed for 6 people for fresh air, and I've got all this stuff, and I've got an Exalta mixing system, and I'm working with those different companies, and I can rattle off names all day long of people that I've been associated with. Who could dream up this reality that I've got? Yeah. It's been amazing, and so that inspires me even more to give back. Yeah. Right?
Which is that's I can't help but reiterate that's why we're here, because you want to give back, and that's I say it time and time again that's what this podcast is all about is showing behind the curtains of people in the industry that are building badass stuff, doing it the right way, and then a whole nother side of like the learning aspect, people willing to teach. Eventually that's what we're going to end up trying to get into, but like I said before,
I was actually going to segue into that.
It takes a lot of balls. It takes a lot of balls to be like, you know what? I think I know at least halfway enough to just tell people that this is start a curriculum and be like, here you go. This is why. This is it. This is step 1, step 2, step 3.
Yeah. Well, it's been this process of setting the bar higher for myself, which has gotten me to this place. From it humbly producing my own paint your own car video to the point where I am now, where I've got, I do consulting for several companies. I do in-person classes for a private training schedule that I have. And we're going to have hot rod classes for people like you guys to come in and do training here at Paintucation. I can't promise you when, but we are going to do that. It's on my agenda. But
you need guinea pigs.
Yeah.
If you need guinea pigs.
But those things, you don't just say, hey, I want to do this. You have to learn how. Mm-hmm. And, my wife is a teacher. Like I've said before, she helped me figure out courseware and curriculum. Ian Johnson used to teach high school shop classes. So he helped me format my in-person classes where you've got milestones that you have to hit, and each day is cumulative builds on the last day. I didn't just wake up one morning and know how to do that stuff. I had to study really hard to figure out that I had the foundation, that I knew I could teach the fundamentals through my videos, through the tech articles, through the refining process of television that led me to this place where now I'm confident enough that I can take you guys in as a hot rod shop, and I can... by the end of the however many day course that we do, if we do a course, you're going to be better at what you do because of some of the things that I can remind you of, or that I can pass on of things that I've learned in my 35 years in collision.
And that's what you pay for, and that's what you miss for free.
For sure.
You get, like you said earlier, when you were talking about people just throwing you to the wolves, we started, the wife and I started I.B.F.HotRods for a reason, because every time I would ask a question somewhere, they couldn't give me the right answer.
Yeah.
And they couldn't tell me why. It's like, well, just do it. Just do it. It's like, but I want to know why. And they're like, well, you're a fucking idiot because you don't know. But it's like, no, I want to know for a reason, because I want to repeat this.
Yeah.
If this is the right way to do it, I want to repeat this because, I want this car to be a show car, and I want him to get in it and drive down the road for a daily driver all at the same time. I want this paint to stay on here for 20 plus years and not have any sort of issues down the line. I want this metal to be treated properly,
And when you get good enough at that, when you understand your own standard operating procedures and you get locked into, I'm going to call it a build style, but it's really just you committing to your own chain of events, then you become recognizable, because you and I can go to SEMA and we can tell if it's a Ring Brothers car. And we can go to Triple Crown and we can see a Bobby Alloway paint job and we can tell that it's a Bobby Alloway deep black paint job. And then we can go to Troy Trepagnia's place and we can see that it's a Rad Rides build. I can go to Houston in Paint House and I can see that it's a Randy Borcherding paint job. Those are the people that not only know what they're doing, but they've refined it to the point to where now they have a recognizable outcome. And that to me is the goal, right?
Yeah.
So what has to happen, the first step is you have to resign to the process, and you have to understand the zen of it. You have to understand that there's no shortcuts. And then you get really good at those simple procedures. Like I was talking about before, you're really good at the individual links of the chain.
Yep.
And then you can have consistency. And then your metal, I talked to, who was it? It might have been Roadster Shop guys. I don't know. I've got a scale over there. See that scale?
Yeah.
It's for weighing catalyst into body filler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the way to do it.
Right.
Well, hell yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's a tenth, it's a tenth or whatever.
Yeah, it's 2% by weight.
Yeah.
So how can you tell 2% by spreading it out and squirting out a half? No, it's weight. It's a calculated measurement. And if you're there, and even if it's 1%, if you're under-catalyzing or over-catalyzing, compensating for temperature, which because
you can repeat that process.
You repeat the process. So you have the same, it's called durometer. You have the same hardness of the filler from batch to batch to batch. And if you're doing a high-end custom, you're wiping the whole car.
Yep.
And if you have inconsistent batches, guess what that does? It puts waves in your panel when you block it because it blocks differently. So those, you get that, you understand that, but you'd be surprised how many people have never heard of that technique. Well,
I talked to you earlier about working for that high-end concourse company.
Yeah.
And that's, that's where I started learning that stuff. And the whole reason I went there was because I wanted to learn that side of the thing, because it's like I wasn't getting that in the custom world. And that's where I learned the metal is important. Can you believe that? Like the bare metal itself is the most important part before you start putting shit on it.
Yeah.
And anyways, I guess this is a good segue into your Paintucation here.
Before we go there, but I want to show this. We're video, right?
Oh, shit.
So you know what this is, right?
Unfortunately.
This is the paint job. This is all you get. So I always tell people that the paint job is the reward that you give yourself for all the hard work you did creating the foundation. And this is what you get. It's a lens into your passion. It's a lens into what you did underneath, period.
Yeah.
And it'll show you. It'll show you what you did.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's it. That's 2.5 mils of cured and dried acrylic urethane paint. So anyway, so I just had to purge that.
Hell yeah.
I'm OCD.
Because I think you just did a video on YouTube, a live video. Was it this one?
It wasn't that piece.
I thought it was green.
Yeah, it's a little purple piece there. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
Yeah.
do we even want to bring that up?
Oh, why not?
Yeah, go ahead, babe.
So we watched the video about your preparation prior to
Yeah, and
painting.
you were flailing us about.
Yeah.
So I took my Yukon to the car wash, came home, and we bought it used from Texas. I walked in the house and I go, remember what Kevin was talking about, paint preparation?
Yeah.
I said, well, let me show you this.
Yeah.
This is what came off from them lack of paint preparation.
Yeah.
It was silky smooth underneath.
Oh,
yeah, it was
absolutely
this.
no profile, no
Yeah.
scratches. Yeah,
Nothing.
Yeah.
No surface prep whatsoever.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's so funny because it was literally, we just watched it like the night before or whatever.
I think it was that day.
Yeah. That morning or whatever the hell it was.
And so the difference between Mako and a chip foose paint job, it's not chip. It is chip. It's the follow through.
Yes.
Right? It's the same mechanical process. You're sanding the fender to put the paint on, and then you polish the paint after you spray it, after it's dry enough to polish. Yeah. The degree of follow through, it's 400 hours on that panel for chip before it's ready for paint. And then the paint process might take 4 days for that fender. And then the polish process might be 200 hours on that. It's the follow through that's the difference. The process is the same. It spans quality. But the fundamentals are the fundamentals. It's the degree that you decide to follow through with the process that makes beautiful work.
And that's how I feel the whole process is. Like, excuse me, that extra 5 minutes. I say about the extra 5 minutes all the time. Just the step by step, like, oh, it's good enough. It's like, it's good enough because I gotta just get away from it. I've been on it for so long.
Yeah.
That's the good enough for me. It's not like, it's just good enough, move on. That's how I feel about it. That's why we started I.B.F.HotRods, because I worked a shop after shop after shop. That was like, I mean,
yeah,
I got stories and pictures in my phone still of just horror stories.
Well, and to
a picture
point,
could say 1,000 words.
and to a point, if you're trying to straighten metal on a vehicle, when do you stop? The responsibility of the shop owner is to that customer to carry through with what their goals are as well. So do you put 500 hours into each panel? I don't know. Maybe you do. But was that the contract coming in? So it's all relative. So not every customer has an unlimited budget. Yep. Thank goodness there are customers out there that have unlimited budgets.
Yeah.
But I've never seen one. And I've been building hot rods for a long time.
Well, Randy Bunting had I wouldn't say an unlimited budget, but Randy
eventually they start complaining about money, but
right. Randy was part of 2 Riddler Award winners.
Oh, just a part of a part of. Did some metal work and the dash and everything, and did some detail work on the outside. And I have a lot of time into it, but it was the 31 Chevy from a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
That was blown. The build was blown up, out of proportion. It was, what can we accomplish with a very small car?
Mm-hmm. But he's been around that type of client that has that, and I know exactly what you mean when you say, some people just, I think you said something on your podcast, maybe it was Chip that talked to you about you're only as good
as our customers allow us to be.
That's it.
Yep.
Yeah. Was that Chip?
That was Chip.
That was Chip. Yeah. That's, I'm telling you, man, that I want to put that on the wall in the building.
Yeah.
is what I want.
Well, yeah. And
that's not dissing the client at all.
No, not at all.
It's just,
you have to set a goal at the front end and then hopefully realize that at the back end, and also understand that it's going to change during the process. And that's where communication comes in. As you guys know, as a shop owner with your clients, you have to have communication.
Yep.
And I've got a good friend up in Springfield, Tennessee, TC Pennick with Bay One Customs. He uses YouTube to communicate with his customers, and he'll talk directly to them. He'll talk into the camera. Hey, Randy, here's what we did on your car today. Blah 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 blah. You'll get the invoice for me at the end of the month. But I wanted to show you what we did. How cool it is. What a wonderful idea, man!
Yeah.
So if the customer or the client or whatever you want to call them is across the country, what a nice window in for them to feel really good. So if you're listening out there, you might want to think about that for customer outreach.
Well, we do that every week. Friday or Saturday, we crack a beer.
Yeah, we try to do it.
That was a GoPro turn. Yeah. I know that sound.
That's this one.
Is that a battery or card?
That's a battery.
Welcome to the technically dazzling world of podcasting and footage.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can plug it in.
I'll just get another.
It's recording again, I guess.
What's the battery life?
Dead.
Not good.
But what I was saying,
technology at its finest.
Yeah. What I was saying, that's how these podcasts go. So, we work through the technical difficulties here,
we're not professionals.
Yeah, we build hot rods. We build hot rods and we bullshit well. That's all.
I've said it several times here on these last YouTube videos that I've done. I've had way more fun doing this type of video than I ever did on television.
Yeah,
so,
that's good.
because it's real. It's what happens, and we're just people talking about stuff.
Right.
So it's cool.
But what I was saying, I crack a beer on a Friday or a Saturday, whenever the weekends, and we go through what's going on in the shop. I don't say, hey, client name, so-and-so.
Yeah.
But, ironically, I guess I'm going to say it now. One guy's name's Clark, and I reference Clark Griswold all the time, and every once in a while I got to be like, "Oh, I'm not talking about you, Clark. I'm talking about Clark Griswold."
Yeah.
So,
But I interrupted you because of my spastic thought process.
No, it's all good,
the way
man.
my brain feeds my mouth. But
no, that is a great. I never thought about just coming straight up and being like, "Hey, Clark, this is what we did to your Riviera today."
Yeah.
But
well, you showed me a picture of it. I was like, well, you should show him that picture because it's awesome.
Because we do like literally every week we post pictures. Every week we got a guy that comes to the shop every week and a half. Every week and a half. He comes in and he says he likes this or he doesn't like this. He wants to see more of this or more of that or whatever. He comes down, bullshit. Sometimes he brings chicken wings for lunch. It's awesome.
So it's a neat teaching tool also. And I never realized how valuable it could be because I've got video and pictures of a lot of things, but I wish I had video and pictures of a lot more things that I've done, but it always comes up. Somebody will ask me something either online or in a classroom setting or something like that. And because I've got decades worth of pictures of cars that I've either seen or had my hands on or done or failed at or whatever the lesson is, I can pull it up on either YouTube or something like that or from some of my photos and I can teach from it. So those things, we're in a visual world, right? We've got these things at our disposal. When I started in television, the lens of the camera cost $60,000. The camera body was $110 on a $50,000 jib, and there was 2 of them in the room with 8 people in the control room, 10 people on the floor. Who can do now? I can do a TV show with an iPhone,
and nobody tells you how to do it.
No.
That's the one thing. It's crazy. Like right now, what we're doing right now, nobody said you're allowed to do it.
No.
I called you and said, hey, or I messaged you and said, hey, you want to do a podcast? You said yes. We showed up and look at this shit.
And because of the technology that's at our fingertips, it's such a privilege to have this at our fingertips. Today, we've got high definition 4K digital cameras, all those things, all the words. But we've got tools at our disposal that are powerful, that give us access to a way to express ourselves, to customer outreach or training tools that we've never, ever had. And you talked about YouTube before, and I love YouTube, but I'm also frustrated by YouTube. So I'm frustrated by the way that I have to sift through a bunch of garbage to find the gold.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm not bashing on anybody.
No.
Because it's free to put videos up on YouTube. There's a billion or whatever, how many 100,000 videos every hour that go up on YouTube in North America alone. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff that goes up there. But for somebody wanting technical advice, my mission is to have good information on YouTube. And then I back it up with courses that I charge for that are truly, my methods of teaching are 30 years deep. And they're an expression of how I've learned how to present, how to teach, how to analogize, and literally do the things that I'm trying to teach. Because I was, and I don't say this out of ego, I don't say it out of bragging, but I'm a really good technician, and it's because I've screwed up more times than I can ever count, and it's because I care about getting better. So that makes me a good technician. What makes me a better teacher is to be able to explain those things that I've learned along the way. What taught me to be a better teacher was television, writing tech articles, and doing my own video series. So those types of things, that refines us down to where we are sitting right here in Middle Tennessee at Paintucation headquarters. So I feel so ready for this next level of challenge that my company has in doing not only in-person training here, but my Paintucation University online, my trade school styled courses with interactive software, the courseware that I've been working on. I'm so excited about. We're almost done. There's a couple editing setbacks that we found out about today, but it's interactive training software designed for WyoTech. Yeah. Designed for high school and college collision repair programs that fall under. There's 5 new criteria for fundamental collision repair. All of my training are drop-in modules that are designed to be teachers' aides and teachers' instructors helpers that give fundamental things. So it's really good training. I'm super excited about it. I would not have been able to do this even 5 years ago, but I've gotten better as a teacher and better as a trainer and more exposed to what people actually need in those courses. And honestly, I call myself a stunt teacher. I've volunteered at a bunch of different colleges and those facilities, and I understand what they're lacking also. And that's not in a disparaging way. Those instructors they're in those courses, and they seldom get out to see what new technology is around. They're stuck in their own curriculum that they didn't even design.
Yeah, right.
And that's what they're there to teach, and they probably teach it very well. I've seen WyoTech grads come out of there brilliant, and I've also seen WyoTech grads that you put in, or you get out what you put into it as well.
That's to a T.
Yeah, for sure. But what I hope to bring to the table with my trade school programs are not only my methods of teaching, my methods of getting the SOPs across, but also bringing a positive mindset into it, bringing an open and receptive mindset to new ways of learning, and just being excited about the whole process and not feeling like you're stuck in a dirty shop.
Yep. You don't want to be there.
No.
You know,
you want your students to be just as excited as you are.
Well, for sure. And a part of that is to tell the message that not only is it a noble career, working with your hands, whatever trade it is, but the way it's going, the way the people are not entering the workforce at the same time as the workforce is aging out, it's going to be a serious problem. In 5 years, we're going to be having a whole different conversation. And as hard as it is for shops to find guys now, it's going to be 10 times harder. The median age, the average age of a collision repair technician is 48 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. That's not old.
Yeah.
I'm older than that, and I don't feel old. But am I going to hump 7 jobs a day like I did in my late 20s? I'm going to feel bad at the end of that week if I turn 400 paint hours like I used to with 2 helpers and 2 paint booths in a busy GM collision shop. And we did that work, and I worked hard. So, but in my 60s now, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm not capable of that anymore. So that's what's happening with our workforce. So I'm doubly empowered and impassioned to spread this word that, hey, man, it's even the entry-level positions are good paying jobs. And quickly, if you show incentive, if you show aptitude, if you show best practice mentality, you can quickly work your way up from sweeping the floor on your first day to being a qualified and well-paid technician within a year or a couple of years.
That's not that much time.
No, it's not that much time.
Yeah.
So it's everybody's got to start somewhere. But this trade, the automotive trade particularly, it's a great paying job right now. But when there's literally nobody to take the jobs, guess what's going to happen with wages? They're going up, right? Because they're going to have to go up to bring people in. So somebody coming out of college right now with a 2-year associate's degree, they're going to be in the catbird seat here in a couple of years. Yeah. When they cut their teeth, they can name their price, buddy. And then whatever happens after that, you could go on to electronics training, all this autonomous vehicle, all the ADAS, all the lane sensor, all that kind of stuff. I know guys in collision repair that gravitated away from fixing panels or painting to being private contractors with recalibration businesses. I know a guy up in Massachusetts that's got 35 trucks he goes around and services. That's that's a non-negotiable from the insurance companies too. So if you know anything about collision repair, the body shops get beat up by the insurance companies and they get whittled down on their prices. Well, when it comes to recalibrating a front radar system, there's no whittling down of that because there's tremendous liability attached to that vehicle and that technician and that procedure. So somebody in that field, guess what? You could name your price also. So those are the things that I feel that are important to bring to mind to people that are, never mind getting a good job. Sure, it's a great job, but look at the career opportunities, right? Look what you can do as a entry-level technician. Look at the different pathways that you can go into. It's amazing. It's amazing. You're not just stuck in a body shop.
No.
Well, there's, I mean, you basically pick whatever, you feel like as a kid, like whatever gravitates towards you. I mean, nowadays there's so much technology. You just pick whatever you want. Yep. And if you want to go for that. Yeah.
Well, when I was a kid, it was hot rods. It was Shelby. It was Ferrari, all that kind of stuff. And that was what really just, turned my wheels. But These days, you talk about the guys that are gaming, people that are, all that kind of stuff. How do you motivate those people? Well, look at the electronics stuff that's happening in vehicles.
Yeah.
Look at all the EV stuff. Everybody has opinions about EV, but is it going to be the end of cars? No, it's not. Is it going to be the primary source of transportation? No, it's not. Is it going to destroy internal combustion engines? No, it's not. They're going to be there. They're part of the whole thing right now. But what an interesting thing. I know guys that hack into Priuses and make them into really fast cars.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, there's hot rodding with that stuff too.
I talk about that shit all the time. Like, so we went from combustion to hybrid to let's just go full electric.
Yeah.
That whole entire hybrid section, like the Prius transmission and shit, blows my mind that it can transfer from engine to motor.
Yeah.
And there is a difference between an engine and a motor.
Well, and if you've ever driven an EV, I mean, it's like an on-off switch. There's instant torque, and that's exciting, man.
Yeah.
Those are fun cars to drive. Do I ever want to not have an internal combustion engine? No. I've got a 550 horsepower first-gen Miata with side pipes sticking out of it. I mean, it's holy cow, man. That thing it's a visceral thing to ride.
It's a go-kart.
It's well, yeah, for sure. It's a 2,700 pound. Yeah, it's power to weight. It's like a McLaren something. I don't know, but so do I ever want to get away from that? No, because I cut my teeth on internal combustion. Yeah. Are they going away? No, they're not. I mean, I'm in the position in the industry to where I get to talk to people that are way smarter than me, and one of those people is Mike Copeland from Arrington Performance.
Okay,
he's doing hydrogen vehicles. It's a hydrogen conversion setup.
I wish my wife didn't take a break for a second because she's all about the hydrogen. Like she works for one of the big threes.
Yeah.
So she's seeing it, on the front line and everything, and she's all about that.
So Cummins is all in on hydrogen. Toyota is all in on hydrogen, and not as the sole source of moving vehicles around, but they're investing heavily into those technologies. And hydrogen is drawn from the atmosphere.
Well, I mean, the H2O goes out the ass.
Absolutely.
And that's what they're trying to do to begin with. Like they're trying, why, if you're trying to be green or whatever, why would you not? I mean, come on, it's mindless to even think.
Well, for sure.
We're on the hydrogen kick, babe.
And zero emissions for a 500 horsepower car, sure, that's great.
I don't know what that meant.
Yeah,
I was telling them you're all about hydrogen engines, and not the electric kick and all that stuff.
Correct.
But I'm glad that it's not the big three have not just resigned to EV. I think the customer base is showing those companies that not completely whatever. No, we're not ready to just switch over.
We can't force feed something that's not wanted.
No, for sure. But it's got to evolve. It's got to change, and I'm fine with it. Zero emissions. That's great. Yeah. The thing that my limited understanding of it is that one of the issues with hydrogen is with the process. The byproduct is literally water. Yeah. And in a colder climate, that's an issue. So whether it's H2O coming out of the tailpipe on an already wet frozen road, I mean that's not good.
Well, then I guess you'd need some sort of heater or something. Or even well, do O2 sensors emit some sort of heat? I can't remember. There's something in there. Well, I guess the DEF and all that shit. They kind of burn through some stuff as far as regenerative
Well, O2 sensors heat up. I mean, they have some heat to them.
Yeah,
I mean, they're electronics.
Yeah,
but,
right. But I'm just saying, you would almost have to introduce some sort of heater. That,
there's somebody that's going to figure it out.
Oh hell yeah! And I'm sure somebody's working on it right now.
Probably,
absolutely. But my point is that it gives me faith back into guys like us or guys that are in the R&D and the development side of internal combustion or not internal of personal transportation. We're never not going to be a rural country. North America is a rural continent, and we're always going to have personal transportation in some form or facet. So no matter what it is, the people that I'm trying to train in collision repair, or at least inspire into a career into collision repair, refinish, even restoration, we're always going to have cars to work on. So you're always going to have job security.
Yep.
Always.
You hear that? Job security.
Yeah,
if you're
for
into
sure.
that type of thing,
Yeah, well, I mean, it used to be somebody would go to work for a big factory and put 30 years in, get the gold watch and a pension, and they're done, right? That doesn't happen anymore. Maybe it happened with you, but you're not the norm, right? So,
Sorry, baby, there you go.
yeah, the average, it's 7 times people change careers in their adult lifetime? Something like that. It's something crazy like
I've
that.
been there 25 years.
Yeah.
I can't wait for her to. I can't wait for her to retire to see what happens next.
Yeah.
You know, we want to get some.
But I was tool and die before that, and I worked at a Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
So, but
Cross-trained.
I would have bought some ice cream from you, baby. No doubt about that.
I'd have put a good curl on it.
All right, I'm really uncomfortable right now.
So yeah, before we go off on another tangent, let's get into the Paintucation here. I want to know what you feel sets this course apart from, like I said earlier, there are other avenues of training.
Sure.
But what do you feel? I feel like you're going to have a good answer to this as far as what sets this course apart from something else you get.
So I'll give you the biggest comparison that I have. What sets my training apart from what you can go down the rabbit hole of YouTube on is that my answers are vetted out. I've taken hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of training myself to become a better technician. And the way that I've learned how to be a teacher and pass on a message is 30 years deep now. So my methods of teaching are born of finding ways to explain things on a very simple level to where people can understand it. And once you can understand the basic process, then you can understand the whole process. So what sets me apart is the fact that I've done it and I've learned how to be a better teacher. I've learned how to answer the simple question 100,000 times and do it with enthusiasm every single time. So the other, I don't know if that's even answering your question. What sets my Paintucation apart is that I've put in the work to create the lessons based off of not only my experience, but also my teaching experience and all of the training that I've been exposed to. So I'm doing the vetting for you. If you go as Elliot and you want to talk about, you want to find out about why did my clear coat come off the hood, you can ask that, and you're going to get 75 different answers. The difference between the answer I'm going to give you and the answer that 74 other people are going to give you is the fact that I've talked to the OEs about it. I was in the collision world in the 90s when all the big three were delamming. We figured out why. They passed that down to us in collision repair. So I've been there. I've done the work, and I've done the work in figuring out how to answer those questions. So that's the biggest thing is I do the vetting for you. You don't have to spend the time on YouTube. I've looked for things because I'm not an engine builder. I'm not an electronics guy. I'm a paint and body restoration guy, but I've had to do those other things, and I've had to figure out how to do those things. So when I'm trying to diagnose a electronic issue, something happens, I've got an O2 sensor that's out or something, or there's some relay that I have to track down or something like that. It's frustrating to me. It's not my wheelhouse. And I go to YouTube and I spend hours looking. I've done the work for you. That's the answer to my question. I've done the work for you when it comes to paint body fundamentals. I will set you on the right road based off of my experience and the accumulative experience of all the training I've had.
Now, I'm assuming in this course you can go back once you get purchase this course.
Yes.
You can go back and forth.
Absolutely.
Let's say you got that question, you have basically something set up to that right there.
Yeah, for sure. So the Paintucation 101, it's my fundamentals course. It covers everything from the very basic, how a spray gun works, what is paint, why do we need airflow, all this, the serious crawl, walk, run on the crawl level. Answers to body fillers, primer surfacers, primer fillers, blocking techniques, surface correction techniques, single stage, two-tone, those types of paint jobs, and troubleshooting along the way also. But those lessons they're all in there. So when I think there's 14 modules in Paintucation 101. Each one goes on what's called a forced learning path. The software does this. The first time through the course, and by the way, when you get the course, it's yours for lifetime. It's yours for legacy. So people ask me all the time, how long does this last? Is this done in 6 months? Do I need to hurry up? No, it's yours forever. And tech support goes along with it. And I work very hard at that also. So there's the other thing that YouTube doesn't give you.
Yeah,
YouTube's not going to call you back when you say, Kevin, I'm having a problem with adhesion over here. Help me. So I'm going to be back on an email or a text message, and I do that. And I'm happy to do that. But that's one of the things that I'm most proud of with these courses is that I follow it up with tech support. I've got a private Facebook group that I give you a link to it when you sign into Paintucation University. It's called Paintucation U. You can sign up for it. It's a no drama. I personally vet everybody that's on there. I've got several hundred people on there now, and I don't tolerate garbage. I won't tolerate somebody being a keyboard warrior, and it's there for the right reason. It's the people that are involved in it. I've got several mentors on there, people that are super, super great in the collision and restoration worlds that are volunteering as moderators there because they believe in what it is that I'm doing. Awesome. In creating that zone of where nobody needs to be afraid to ask the simple question. Even if everybody else knows it, you need to have that freedom. So that's part of the courses also.
You can't do that on a Facebook forum nowadays.
No, I feel like that in and of itself is worth purchasing the curriculum.
Well, for sure. So you buy the course, you go in, there's videos on how to go in, and there's test outs after every module. It's a forced learning path. The first time through the course, you have to pass the first module before you can get into the second one. And there's a test out. They're not
now what
terrible.
I don't mean to interrupt, but
no, go ahead.
To give the listeners an idea of these tests that you're talking about, is this college curriculum like when I was at WyoTech? You know, technician A says this, technician B says this, technician C. So, yeah. A and B are right. Technician C might be right, but
there's some multiple choice like that. But typically what I do is I base the questions off the previous module. We talk about basic paint chemistry, and I ask maybe there's multiple choice. What's the most important thing to a modern HVLP gun? Is it PSI? Is it CFM? Or all of the above? So what's the answer to that?
I don't know. I didn't take your course yet.
Okay. So,
you tell me.
So, and the answer was given in the module. So if you paid attention, so it's basically recap and reinforcement. Yeah. So the tests they're not rocket science, but it reinforces what we've gone over in that first module. Then you go into the second one, and it's accumulative. It grows from there. Once you go through it once, you can jump around, go anywhere you want to. Yeah. So with the software that I'm using, there's a digital notepad. You can take notes. You can download the notes. You can create your own ebook. There's other resources on the software. I'm crazy about the software. It's multiple platform friendly. I can watch it on my phone, or I can watch it on a screen that big. The resolution doesn't change. It's adaptable resolution, whatever the terms are for that. So it's really dynamic software that way.
That's pretty huge. You can take that into the paint booth with you, or to the fender when you're trying to work on it or whatever.
For sure. Yeah. And, Paintucation used to be on DVDs. I can't bring a DVD player into the spray booth or right here on my mixing bench. Yeah. I could, but it wouldn't last very long, right? So the point is, everybody is on our phone. We're on our phone. And we can have access to this training on a mobile device, whether it's a tablet or a smartphone or something like that. That's another benefit of the Paintucation University. And of course, there's links to other resources. I give some discounts. I provide a private consultation for somebody that wants to figure out what spray guns they need or how to troubleshoot their equipment and things like that. So there's a lot more than just watching the video. So it's an interesting course that way. And again, the lessons are well thought out. I've showed it to different trade school instructors. I get to pitch the courses hopefully within the next 6 weeks. I was at an instructors conference that was sponsored by ASE last July. And I was a speaker there, and I got to present a portion of the college training courses that I've got that show a little more interactive training software. That I'm going to integrate more of that into the 101 course, but it's not all the interactive part is typically the test outs at the end. But on my new software, which I'm going to integrate a little bit more into the other one, when we come to a position to where we have to pick a sandpaper grid, we give the observer, the student, or the instructor the option to choose 80, 120, or 100. Whatever one you get, there's a cause and effect. So now the phrase is this: we take a passive passive observant and turn them into an active participant. So by actually having a hand, and then when they click the wrong answer, I tell you why it's wrong.
Yeah.
And you circle back to now you have another opportunity.
I like
That's
that.
great
I've
right
never
there.
had that before.
Yeah, because usually it's just like, nope, you're wrong, and then you just go back.
And that's the
beginning.
power of the interactivity. It's really complex to edit, but it's
I
worth
bet.
it.
But it sounds like it's going to be extremely productive if it hasn't already became
it
productive already.
instills the knowledge with you giving explanations why this and this and this, so that you remember, oh, hey,
Right.
that's why.
It also takes what would be a 10 to 20 minute video and chops it up into 2 and 3 minute sections. So what that does is this generation, these past 2 generations of people that have a 2.5 minute attention span and have their face in their phone all the time, and that's not a criticism, it's an observation. Well, now we can reach those people because our collective attention span has shrunk. It's because of the society we live in, because of the technology we're exposed to. And so how do you meet people where they are? You bring them the training where they need, where they can process it most efficiently. And that's in smaller sections and drag them into it. So, I mean, that's one of the things I'm most excited about with this, the college programs, is that I get to bring it in a different way and introduce current curriculum into trade schools that maybe haven't been exposed to it. You know, aluminum repair, maybe glue pulling, GPR is a new emerging technology. Paintless dent repair used to be picks, and you get underneath, have to pull the headliner to get hail dents out of the roof.
Oh, hell yeah.
Glue pull. Glue happens from the top. It's a fantastic. People are doing rough out quarter panel pulls with glue. They're doing complete paintless repairs as long as the paint's not broken. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
What that
I
technology
wish I knew
is.
how to do that. That stuff's amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, I can.
Sounds like you will after you take the course.
Well, yeah, the GPR, I show a small sample of what GPR is on a hail dent on the top of a late model import. And it's really interesting how it works. And when you do it from the top out, you don't mess with the corrosion inhibitors on the back side of the panel, and you don't have to pull the headliner. So there is no R&I time on your interior components. You're not bogging down in time. You're not risking breaking plastic clips and fasteners. So it's a really interesting thing. So I get to bring that into a collision and repair college that hasn't really had time to get out into the world and be exposed to those emerging technologies. So it's kind of an exciting time to be able to have this all converge at the same time. While I'm still, I've got the energy to do it.
Yeah, right.
But
No, I mean that definitely we dove in pretty good as to why your course, this curriculum is completely set apart from everybody else. Because I mean, just the amount of time to get to this point, I can't see the courses I'm thinking of. I don't think that's going to be anywhere what you're talking about.
I'm hoping to be kind of a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
I don't pretend to be able to reinvent the mousetrap. It's already out there, and there's very, very qualified entities that are doing great training. What I hope to be able to do is to bring, like I said, a little bit of a breath of fresh air in. I don't want to rewrite the book.
Yeah.
I want to help the instructors bring new information in a simple way. The other thing is this. If you buy a DVD from me, I still have DVDs for sale. I've got streams of the DVDs. I've got
So on the website.
yeah, for sure. So some people still have a DVD player.
hell
So
yeah.
I can sell you a DVD. I can sell you a streaming format of the DVD. If you want classic Paintucation, is what we call it now. The information is still valid on there. I had a mullet in a couple of the
Oh,
old
hell yeah.
videos. But one of the things that my online courses can do now, and we can exercise this, is that if I see new technology, I can pull a module down, I can redo it and upload it in an afternoon. And your course never changes, but you get the information.
That's awesome.
And so that's, to me, if I wanted to throw in a custom paint module or a show car polishing module in Paintucation 101, I'm working on that. I've got panels outside. I've been immersed in the college program. So once I get free of that, we're going to really beef up Paintucation 101 and bring more into it and create more dynamics and things like that. So I'm super excited about that. It's the next evolution of what Paintucation is. It's being able to be modular, to be mobile, to be dynamic. And when new stuff comes in, guess what? You bought it for life.
Yeah.
And
That's
so,
huge right there.
Well, for
'Cause
sure.
It's never, I mean, paint is
It's a
forever
Forever learning.
Yeah.
forever evolving.
For sure.
You know,
And that,
chemicals come
one-
in, California puts a new, cap
Yeah.
on something.
Well, as Europe goes, so does North America.
Yes.
So Waterborne Technologies, now the big thing on the horizon is UV cure, right? Cure lights. There's a rattle can primer surfacer up there on that shelf that is high build. It has an unlimited open time until you hit the correct light level. Wow. It's a 360 to 400 nanometer light level on it, and then it's a 6-minute full cure.
Wow.
Yeah, for sure.
That's incredible.
So I can
yeah.
if I can put my light on it and walk around and do, it's amazing. There's no isocyanates in it. It's not as poisonous as the typical urethane primers, and it's super user friendly. And I can roll it out into the sun and make room in my shop, and the sun's going to cure. You know what I mean? So those technologies are coming on the ground coats, especially body filler. Evercoat has now a UV cure filler. All of this comes over from the marine industry. I teach a fiberglass module in one of my classes, and we do both MEKP fiberglass as well as UV Cure fiberglass. UV Cure is temperature independent. If it's 35 degrees in here, I can do my layup with UV Cure resins. I can hit it with the right light level, and if it's still 35 degrees in here, I'm going to get a full cure in 6 minutes.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So and I can if I've got a. So I actually read a magazine article where somebody did a headliner on a Chevy Nomad. The way they did it was they put wax paper down on the roof of the Nomad, and then they did their fiberglass layup, and they did it chunks at a time, laminated, laid it up, rolled it out, and that was their headliner. Then they trimmed it, put it back in the car. Perfect, right?
Yeah,
Perfect
right.
silhouette.
Makes perfect sense.
So he probably had 75 batches of fiberglass resin, right? And all kicking at a different time. And then this one's sticky, and that one didn't work. And the resin, the hardener was too old on this. You've worked with fiberglass. It's a kind of a...
Unfortunately.
It's an inconsistent bear cat. So imagine if you could do a layup like that with an unlimited open time. 45 minutes, 5 hours, 2 days
right.
with your resins. Do your layup.
Yeah.
Roll a car outside. By the time coffee breaks over, you've got full cure.
That's
That's a game changer right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
It seems like it's
That'd be
great
amazing.
for DIYers or like home mechanics and stuff
Oh my
like
God,
that.
Absolutely. So those are the things I'm excited about, being as deep in the industry as I am, and I'm scratching the surface. But I'm able to work with Axalta Paint on some of their training products, and they're helping me with my training products. So I get exposed to the things that they're working with, and I'm working with ASC, and hope to be working more with ICAR as well, and those types of organizations that are very, very, very front and center with training. And I don't want to do what they do. I want to help them do what they do by bringing in what I do. I want to be an auxiliary product for them in collision shops. So I can't compete with iCar.
Yeah.
I can't be K-Car. but I can create training that goes alongside theirs and helps them and brings my perspective in. So
Now, this course, you just dropped a couple of names. Who is it that you're associated with that when you graduate this course, you can actually get certified through them? How does that work, and what is that exactly?
You get Paintucation certified through this course. And whatever that's worth the paper it's written on, other than the fact that it's really good training.
Yeah, right.
But what that allows you to do is get on the Axalta website and go through their certification process.
That's what it is. That's
yeah.
exactly
so
what
I can't certify you through Axalta. I'm an Axalta certified trainer.
Yeah.
I've gone through their program. I'm one of their teachers and instructors. But I can't extend those accreditations through my training for Axalta. But I can funnel you into their training and do that.
So that's basically a leapfrog into that. You
Yes.
get through this, and you're going to be able to get through
Yes.
the Axalta stuff.
Well, for sure.
Which I'm sure you can probably incorporate anything you're going to
Yeah.
learn here into
And-
any type of.
And Axalta
curriculum
has
like that.
also, they've got a learning campus that anybody can go to. So if anybody's listening to this, and Axalta used to be DuPont, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. It's one of the fifth largest paint manufacturer on the planet. So you can go to the Axalta Learning Campus and you can enroll, you can become one of their students. Their training is really good as well, but you have to sift through it and you have to find what their language means and things like that. I'm not bashing them because I'm working with them, but I mean, that's a way to go also. But I feel like the groundwork that you do in my courses, then to move on to something like that. I think for somebody that wants a career in collision, or I don't know, man,
Collision, or is it just collision, or can you throw in restoration with that?
So here's the interesting thing about that. I'm glad you said that, because I keep saying collision repair.
That was going to be my question coming up.
Sorry.
Hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
What I've been able to bring into the restoration projects that I've done and the shops that I've worked at is the efficiency and the product knowledge that collision taught me. So block sanding techniques and things like that. Handwork is handwork, and there's no substitute for that. But if we can use a more efficient chemistry, if we can bring some other techniques in, flat is flat. Whether we do it with a DA sander or a block sander. So what I've been able to do is what I've been able to bring to the table is a little bit more efficiency, and it's what collision taught me. Is efficiency, because it's all about cycle time, right?
Well,
not screwing something up, too.
Yeah.
I mean, the chemical side of things is what I'm like. I want to know why.
Yeah.
If you're one of these people out there that want to know why, you're going to know why. You're going to know why you need to use certain temperatures with certain types of paint and certain types of additives and all that happy horse shit.
Yep.
And that's what I want to learn. That's the whole reason why I even, before I even reached out to you, I was like, this is what I'm talking about. This is what my answer.
Because as far as the restoration side goes, there's no set time for how long a fender should take, or whatever the panel is that it should take.
Well, there's no flat rate for that.
There's nothing.
No,
I don't
exactly.
know.
Yeah,
I've never worked in a collision shop, so I don't know how exactly that works as far as how they.
The collision repair tech, his opportunity and his obligation is to learn how to do it perfectly, correctly, and once. If you can do that, then you can make really good money in collision. If you cheat procedure, if you don't follow SOPs, and if you try and skirt some of the groundwork, and even maybe don't understand a little bit, but if you end up making mistakes, it costs you 3 times. And then if your flat rate, if I get paid 2.5 hours for this fender, and maybe I didn't wipe it down the second time with organic instead of a solvent, whatever SOP I missed trying to hurry up because I wanted to go home and watch the game.
Right.
And I've got fish eyes in that fender and I've got to redo. I pay for it. I screwed that one up. I screwed the one that should be in the booth when I'm painting that one, when it should be being shipped, and I've screwed the one behind it.
Right.
So I pay 3 times for every mistake in collision. So the goal of a collision repair tech, we got to be efficient. And if you're good, it doesn't take long to be good. But if you're good and you're really diligent about SOPs and about the best, or the best practice mindset is what I call it. I learned that from the Exalta trainers. Then you can. It's a game changer. And then you take that discipline out of the frantic cycle time, got to get the jobs kicked out, got to do 7, 8, 10 a day, whatever, out of collision. And you bring a little bit of that over into restoration, and you have consistency. You have repeatable procedures. You understand what to do from bare metal up. And
that's the whole fucking game, man.
Yeah.
That's the whole game right there.
Yeah.
Yep. So
didn't mean to interrupt.
No, all good.
Just to be fired up about that shit.
Oh, for sure. And it's so easy to go down the wrong road. And there's so many people out there that, here's the other thing that I say. These chemicals, this chemistry in repair materials, whether it's restoration or collision repair, they're forgivable enough to where you can do it a couple of different ways. They're forgiving enough to where you can do it wrong.
Yeah.
And it'll still work pretty good. And then you could bury what you did wrong with doing something right. So there's a lot of bad habits that get formed. And there's a lot of unlearning that I find that people have to do. There's people that are 20, 30 years in deep, and I'm no different, that have a series of unlearn, even from basic spray techniques, to how you mix paint. I used to, an unbelievable trainer named Jim Kavotic taught me this. He used to be with PPG as a trainer for 17 years. Now he's with Soda Spray Equipment. And Jim's a guru. He's a fantastic technique. He's funny as hell too. But we were talking about clear coat. So in collision repair, everything's fast. Right? So I mix 2 quarts of clear. Put it in the cups, pop the cap on the cup, throw it in the shaker, go get my gun ready, take it off the shaker, and go in and shoot. And I'm wondering why I've got weird consistency. So, I used to do that because what better way to blend your chemicals than on the paint shaker, right?
Yeah.
Well, it aerates. right?
That makes sense.
It introduces air bubbles.
I remember you saying, I just watched a video. You were just talking about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't see the bubbles because they're microscopic.
Yeah.
But
There's a shitload of them, I'd imagine.
yeah, it's the science of rheology, is how the droplets hit the surface and what they do after that. So if there's air pockets between the droplets, they're going to react differently and they're going to stack differently. And that is going to affect the finish or the overall way your finish looks. And you might lay it down slick as glass in the booth, kick it out of the heat cycle, and you come back in and it's got cottage cheese on it. How did that happen?
Yeah.
Well, maybe it had something to do with how you mix the paint. Maybe it had something to do with how close your gun was, how you're accessing the droplet particles and that sweet spot of atomization, all those types of things. So those are the things that rev me up.
Now, are those good? You go through that stuff, I'm assuming, in this class?
I go through a lot of it. Absolutely. Yeah. So I do exercises with craft paint on either cardboard or just a white 36-inch paper on the wall. It's really important that we understand how that spray gun works, right? And, how to adjust it. And one of the things, and you may argue with me about this, but one of the things that I will fight to the death on is adjusting the spray gun, tuning it in, 2.5 turns in on the fluid. And I got half a turn out and I pull my trigger back to where it locks and then 2.5 turns. Bullshit. That piece of equipment has been under constant revision and design for 105 years. So really smart engineers that are way smarter than me designed that equipment. The way that equipment operates best is full fan, full fluid, full trigger. That's it. I didn't make that rule. That's the rule.
Yeah.
So after that is technique.
It's the first time I've heard that.
Yeah. It makes perfect sense. I mean,
think about this. It's a balance, right? That carburetor on my wall. I hold that up, say, what is this? Is it a spray gun or is it a carburetor? It's a carburetor. Well, then I hold up a spray gun. They're both carburetors. They're both atomizers.
Makes perfect sense.
So it's how we control the mix, right? Mm-hmm. So if you want a tiny droplet because you want a super flat finish and you choke off the fluid level on your spray gun to get a tiny droplet, you're super packing that spray pattern with air. You're robbing it of fluid.
Yep.
And what you're doing is creating space in between the droplets, and you're robbing it of the ability to assimilate. Essentially, when you let the thing have balance, and then again, I don't know, if you choke down your pattern, you're focusing that spray pattern into a smaller area, and you're forcing those droplets to be tighter packed together. So you're changing the way they hit the surface. So I'm not saying I never adjust my spray gun, but I almost never adjust my spray gun. When I'm training people, when I'm teaching people, I teach you full fan, full fluid, full trigger technique. Are there instances to where I narrow my fan pattern down? Sure. If I've got a tunneled headlight and I need to get it wet up inside, those Corvettes, third-gen Corvettes in around the back glass. Am I going to do a full pan this wide? Pan this wide? No, I'm not. I'm going to tighten it. And so there are times, and if I've got a tight 90, if I'm doing the inside of a cab on a C10 truck and I want it super glass, am I going to hold my gun like this against a 90? No, I'm not. I'm going to turn my air cap and get a horizontal pattern and fan it down.
Yeah.
Those types of things. That's what those adjustments are for. It's for the rare exception that you need to adjust the equipment. Those are the things that I teach. Once you're up to speed on basic technique and you can make it look like it's supposed to look with the gun like it's designed to work, then you can mess around and you can change things a little bit.
This gets me excited. I can't wait for this class.
That's what I'm talking about, man.
So anyway, I might be oversimplifying it.
That's the simplification is what people need.
Yeah, and I don't want to oversell the course either. But those are the things that we cover in it.
But you're not overselling anything, because at the end of the day, the most sought after information is that shit that we think is simple.
Yeah.
People come to YouTube all the time. How do you weld? Well, fuck. It's just welding, you know what I mean? That's like when we went to class and we already know how to weld, but we went to class for welding. The first week I learned something and I was just like, everything anybody ever told me or not told me was horse shit.
Yeah. The first time anybody ever sat me down for TIG welding, you get your setup, you get your things, you get all your stuff in line and you set your workpiece up, right? Then what do? Before you start welding, you do a practice run.
Yeah.
To make sure that your torch and your rod and you can reach everything. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what I teach in painting? You do a practice run, right? Whether it's around a whole vehicle or whether it's on a fender. Where are you going to stop? Where are you going to start? Do you have to stand up? And how do you stand up? And where are you going to go? And where are you looking? Where are you standing when you're spraying? You're spraying here, or are you offset where you can look at it and watch it? Are you watching the hammer or are you watching the nail?
Yeah.
You know, those types of things. And I draw analogies in from my cross training, like welding training, into the paint booth, and it makes sense. And those are the things, those are the Easter eggs that this thing is chock full of. So that's why I'm passionate about saying, hey, these courses aren't free, but they're worth the money.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, just through the first, even if you've learned on the job, like that's pretty much how I learned how to build hot rods.
Right.
Was just thrown to the flames, I learned carburetors by just working on carburetors, figuring out how shit worked. And, I was never trained properly. So I didn't have the technical terminology. I couldn't tell you why this is this or why this is that. I just figured it out. And I do that because this car's doing this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, I had an 8-hour lecture on the difference between an engine and a fucking motor, and my wife can attest to this. It drives me crazy when people say motor in place of engine, but it happens. I just got to, I cringe and just go away.
But it's part of culture too. Motor City, right?
Yes,
Detroit,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
But you got
motorcycle. You know what I mean? It's just the way it works.
It rolls off the tongue. It's easier sometimes, I guess.
But I had that damn 8-hour lecture. Man. It's just stuck in my head on that.
Oh man, yeah. I called something a motor tongue in cheek, and I'm doing these videos on YouTube, and where I walk around a vehicle and give my impression of what it's going to take to get it back going again, and they're fun to do because it's like living. I can take a wild guess at it, and I give two perspectives. One's DIY, one's if you farm it out, and I popped the hood on a vehicle. I called it a motor. It's like, oh man. I know the difference, but it just came out of my mouth, and oh boy, somebody just jumped on that. they let me know that it was not, in fact, a motor.
Right,
motor is an electrical with an armature.
Nowadays,
Yeah,
It's funny because I had a guy come into a Snap-on dude came to the shop and was like, we were talking about EVs came up, and the guy was like, well, hell. Mechanics you can't even work on a motor on this thing. And I was like, what? Actually, that's all you're going to work on this thing are motors, man. Yeah. But he just sells,
Yeah.
He was just fixing my screwdrivers.
And, so I feel good about the training. And the other thing is this, it's like I've always said with the DVDs, and I can count on the amount of people that have returned my DVDs over the last 30 years. On one hand, without taking the other glove off, because they didn't think they were good products. I will happily refund your money. Somebody goes through my training, gets a DVD, they don't like it, they this is not what I signed up for, this is not what I thought it was. Guess what? I'll refund your damn money. So I offer a money back guarantee if you're not satisfied with this training. And it just sounds like I'm, the pitch man right now, but that's how much I believe in this.
Well, that's what we're here for. We're here to tell them about this.
It takes me years to develop this stuff, and it's taken me a lifetime to figure out how to do it in the first place. And the college courses that I'm working on, it's 18 months of intensive work. And we're not done yet. We're almost done, but we're not done yet. That's what it takes an incredible amount of resource, both time and financial, to get this stuff done. And the person that studies this, I'm not saying it's God's gift to the trades or anything like that, but it's damn good training. And I stand behind it, and I know it's well done. I feel really great about it.
Well, the good thing is you're doing it. You're not just showing up, the spokesman, the dude who's been on TV for all this time and like, hey man, this is, I'm on the outer, cover or whatever, the DVDs and stuff. And I'm just here. No, I'm putting in the work.
Yep.
I'm doing all the headaches of trying to make this stuff work. I mean, just listening to you talk about just how it's put together and just the computer jargon you've been talking,
Yeah. Well, it's where we live now. It's all on computers. It's all on the cloud somewhere. What is a cloud? I don't even know what a cloud is. I know what a cloud is. It's a room full of servers somewhere in New York. But whatever. It doesn't matter.
No. You say cloud, I think Bob Ross.
I know. My wife told me I was getting Bob Rossi the other day. But and the other thing is this. I'm doing a video on YouTube. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but it's a how-to video, and things went horribly wrong a couple of times. And in television, for years and years and years, we just didn't have the time to show what went wrong. We had 22 and a half minutes to tell 150 hours worth of story. So we literally had to dissect what we thought was the most important how-to information at the time. We could not tell the whole story. And for those reasons, those formats were criticized heavily, and I get it. I really understand. Oh, you guys are full of shit. It takes, you do half an hour. You don't show what it really happens in that. We couldn't do it. But it was our job as technical producers to tell the best 2.5 minutes in that segment that we possibly could. Blending clears, blending base coat, whatever it was that I was able to bring to the table with my vocation. That was the story that I got to tell. And it's a huge, huge challenge. So we were robbed of the ability to really tell the whole story to our viewers. And for that, I'm not going to say I have regrets, because it was an incredible job and it was a dream job in a lot of ways. But with now what we have with YouTube, I can put up an 1.5-hour video with no commercials.
Yeah, straight up.
You know what I can do now?
Yeah.
I can tell the truth.
The whole truth and nothing.
And not that I didn't want to tell the truth before, and it sounds like, nefarious and all that kind of stuff, but I can explain what goes wrong. And circle back to this video that I'm going to do. Stuff goes wrong, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you what went
That's
wrong.
what people want to
More
see.
importantly, they don't want to see me fall down on my face. They want to see what I did to fix
Yes,
it. That's
yes.
the opportunity of YouTube, and that's why I'm excited about it. It's free, whatever. But what happens is that people see the YouTube and they go, "Man, this guy's not full of crap. Maybe his training courses will help me," and people end up signing up for their training courses, which is a beautiful thing. I'm not going to stop doing the free videos, because there's people that can't afford to do the training. It's not cheap on the courses, and it's not as expensive as a college.
Well,
but it's
no,
not
I was just going to
either.
say that. I mean, it's just, I'd be more than happy to spend money. Like I was planning on spending more money on training. I mean, hell, Wyotech was a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a flash in the pan.
But for you, it's a process of constantly learning. So, any technician in any trade, it's our responsibility to keep up and to be continually trained, period.
Yeah, and anybody in any of the fields that have, if they're in body work or restoration or whatever, if they're spending the money on this course, they're going to be making that back.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a very short amount of time, because you can make a lot of money, and I know guys in restoration shops that are doing well, and guys that have their own shops. And that's really kind of a cool thing too, is you can springboard off. I know Jonathan Goolsby started in collision, had a 2-year associate's degree in body shops. Now he's Goolsby Customs down in Birmingham, and he does world-class stuff. And he started off in collision repair, but his dream, his passion took him to owning his own custom shop, and he does outstanding work. And it's amazing. And he's like me, he's drawn from his collision repair experience and brought it into the restoration world and refined his process to where he's super efficient. Nothing can replace the 200 hours of block sanding that it takes for a couple of rounds of poly. But, you're going to have to put that time in. But anyway, so guys like that inspire me, because it shows me and it allows me to tell his story also and say, hey, if you learn this, if you pick this trade up, you can kind of write your own ticket. You can do a bunch of interesting things with this foundation, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
So I want to come up and see your shop.
Oh, well, you're going to have to let me know so we can throw something on the barbecue.
Okay, cool.
Because
I was going to say, when we were talking about the restaurants and the cooking shows and everything, I was like, there's only one good place in town, and that's the Slack's house.
Yeah.
That's the back porch on the catio. Yeah, we built Melanie and I, we built a catio on the back porch, big enough to drink beer in and eat barbecue. So
there you go.
That's what we do. And,
Very good.
Yeah, that's all we do up there. But no, our shop's smaller. I mean, this place that you have here, for anybody that hasn't been here or seen, this is pretty sweet.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
The 2 buildings, and everything. I mean, I don't even know there's any more buildings back this way. Is that all there is of the 2?
There's one over there.
Oh, right. Exactly. Exactly. I didn't get the full tour yet, but no, I appreciate the time. I think good spot to cut it off. Is there anything else that you want to talk about?
I just want to say thanks for coming all the way down here to talk to me about this, and thanks for letting me talk about Paintucation. It's such an important thing for me. It's where I'm at in my life, and I feel driven to get this training out there. And I'm stoked. I'm excited about it, and you guys are giving me the opportunity to get it out in front of more people. So thank you so much, man.
Yeah, I'm excited because, like I said, our whole plan was to purchase this and go through it anyways. And it's like, this is the dude. Why not reach out to Kevin? And then the more research we do on you, the more
Thanks
it's
for
like,
letting us come pick your brain.
oh yeah.
What little is left
I
after
still
the
have
80s, right?
I still have one question I wanted to ask, which is, I mean, you don't have to. I mean, I had a question. Well, we had a question about what was your opinion on epoxy straight to bare metal versus and then doing mud work versus mud work then epoxy.
The conspiracy.
I will say it like this. A lot of times when I'm coaching people through a paint job, and if it's their first paint job, if you're going to strip it down to bare metal, you need to cover that bare metal up.
Yeah.
Very, very quickly.
Right.
I was talking to a pipe welder that does ASME certified welds on heavy equipment and things like that. And he said in his schooling, his training, they were taught that flash rusting starts in 20 seconds. So oxidation on a molecular level happens very, very quickly.
Wow.
So if you strip your vehicle down and then you body work it with all the exposed metal, you're going to be covering up corrosion. You're going to be covering up that oxidation process that happens when atmosphere hits substrate.
Right.
It just does.
Yeah.
So the faster you can get that covered up with something, the better.
Right.
The best product, in my opinion, to do that is an epoxy primer. It's a one-coat product, and the beautiful benefit of epoxy, it's a catalyzed product.
Yeah.
There's a hardener in it. It's a true moisture barrier, right? Urethanes are porous. They're not a moisture barrier. You can prime the whole thing with a urethane primer, a couple of coats. You still got porosity.
Okay.
So the epoxy coating is a moisture barrier. Etch primers, not a moisture barrier.
Yeah.
They're good primers, but they're not a moisture barrier.
Right.
So that's my best advice to somebody doing that. And then you can pick and choose and do a panel at a time and work your way around the car.
Yeah.
For a custom shop also, I think. Here's where people get in trouble with epoxy. Here's the cautionary tale with epoxy, is that if you jump on it, it's got an incredibly long open window. What that means is that it stays open enough to where you can recoat it between 48, 72 hours, sometimes longer, depending on the manufacturer. That's a long open window. If you jump on that and throw your filler on it too quickly, or throw your high build primers on it too quickly, you can trap solvents in there.
Right.
So what I always try and tell people is, yes, cover it up with epoxy on your bare metal, then do your mud work on top of that. But wait, I've been bit by this. I've been bit by it hard. It was painful. It was expensive. And it bubbled up literally on top of the epoxy because I didn't let it outgas enough. So that's the only thing to be aware of. At least 2 days, 48 to 72 hours.
Yeah.
Now, that's a long window.
Right.
But you're starving off atmosphere from your bare metal substrate. That's the big role of epoxy on there. Will filler stick to it within the open window? Yeah, sure. It does great. You
Right.
get chemical adhesion.
Yeah.
But I would rather have it exceed that and then come back and scuff it with whatever TDS tells me. Typically, your body filler, your Evercoats are 180. You don't have to do 36 anymore. And then there's guys like my buddy Tim Strange. He's just down the street. He goes bare metal, grinds it down with 40 grit, and then he does his mud work. He's in the Hot Rod or the Hot Rod Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
He's been on 200 magazine covers. He's Tim Strange. I'm not going to tell him he's doing it wrong. That's how Tim Strange does it. It's not how I teach to do it, but he learned how to do his methods to where they don't come back on him.
Yeah.
So I'm not in the position to say you're doing it wrong.
I guess that's what it comes down to is, I guess, your experience with it.
Yeah, for
And
Yeah, because I know in that restoration world that I was working in, we would leave stuff in bare metal for almost months on end, but we had a 3-step chemical process where we cleaned that metal, and there was ways to tell, like if it would, I forget what the numbers were.
Yeah.
But we had step 1, apply this, step 2, apply this,
Yep.
rinse it off with water and stuff like that, and boom, 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 boom. And if it starts to flash rust, you didn't get it all off.
Yeah.
So you would go back through and just do it again. And this guy's has, I didn't question him because, like I said, he was the first person to tell me why.
Yeah.
And that's such a gray area. That's why I said here comes a conspiracy.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you said, Tim Strange, he goes straight to. he puts mud and everything straight to it, and I could ramble off 17 other places that do the same
For
thing.
sure. But they also know to get it covered up quick, right? And, people can rely on epoxy and call it a crutch and all that type of stuff as well. But the other thing is this. You can't randomly reach for 9 different sets of chemistry.
Yeah.
You can't be a bench chemist. You can get away with it because, like I said before, this stuff is forgiving enough to where you can mix and match and all this kind of stuff. Stick with a system. If you're using PPG, use PPG. If you're using Axalta, Axonobel, whatever it is, stick with that system. There's compatibility within those component ranges. And that's the biggest mistake people make. And trying to reach for chemistry that they think is less expensive. This reducer is from this knockoff PPG brand. I'll use this reducer with PPG, blah, 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 because it's instead of $300 for a gallon, it's $120. And it's the same thing. Sure it is. No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's not. So I'll tell this story real quick. There's a company called Collision Hub. They do a lot of education. Christian Felder, they do great stuff. They had this live thing. They brought people on. They said, why do you stay within the family of chemistry? Is it brand loyalty? No, it's chemistry loyalty. So what they did was they had raw material pigment, a red powder pigment from one of the paint manufacturers. And they had 3 different vessels, one with lacquer thinner, one with acetone, and one with a urethane reducer. So we think about acetone as a cheap solvent. A lot of your lower end lines use a high concentration of acetone in the solvent, right?
Yeah.
So those things, it's less expensive to buy. Does it do the same thing? Sure, it evaporates just like the expensive solvent. Why shouldn't I use that? Same raw material pigment immersed in 3 different clear vessels turned 3 different colors. The chemistry affected the pigment.
Wow.
So in collision repair, color match is super important.
That's the whole name of the game.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So if you do a color standard, you do a match and all that kind of stuff, and you go in the booth, you use some cheap reducer and it doesn't match, and now you blame the paint, right?
Yeah.
So those things, it's super important. That was a huge light bulb that went off for me. It's like, wow, that was a better way to explain it, right? I know it's a good idea to stay within a brand.
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm man crushing on the brand. It's because that was engineered to be sprayed together. So same with the epoxies. Don't reach for Axalta epoxy if you're going to use PPG primer or whatever. Yeah. And there's some exceptions. I use Evercoat, a high build primer surface or primer fillers a lot.
I think that was like the number one thing I've ever learned. Like the consistency wise was we use this product and we use it from point A to point B.
Yep.
And we don't go back and forth with anything.
Yeah.
And a lot of questions I feel like online is they bought this because it was cheap, and then they went this route because somebody told them that this is the best paint for it or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Let me crystallize this thought. With the question of epoxy, don't assume that all epoxy is the same. It's not. Use one that either you trust or somebody has told you is good or falls in line with your paint chemistry. Don't just guess. Don't be a bench chemist.
Okay.
That's finish up. Yeah.
Before we're running on over 2 hours, which is awesome, I think, for this kind of podcast.
We could talk for 4.5, man.
I know, but before we call it a close up here, I wanted to ask one more kind of like conspiracy kind of thing or whatever. Because we've only been we've been doing this for other people for a long time, and we've seen a lot of different things, and doing it ourselves the last couple of years, we're kind of like at a standstill on a couple, we just a couple of different things here and there, but one of them was like all metal or metal to metal, or versus
fiberglass
fillers and stuff like that.
What's your thoughts on the metal to metal?
Yeah,
and against fiberglass or whatever.
Yeah.
Think about it like this. What are you replacing with that product? Lead.
Right.
Yeah. So you're doing it in a transitional seam on a sail panel or a trunk seam or something like that. So what's more flexible, aluminum or glass?
I would say
Aluminum. So, So what you're doing is you're interdispersing aluminum in a fiberglass resin, or it's a fiberglass-ish resin, but it's malleable to a point. There's a little bit of flexibility in that. That's what the all metal is kind of designed to. It's not designed to take the place of lead, but when you compare short strand or long strand fiberglass in a cured mass, a thermoset cured mass, and you try and flex it, it's non-flexible.
Right.
But on a molecular level, that all metal remains somewhat malleable.
Okay.
So, in my opinion, that's the better product to use on those places.
Okay.
Yeah, because usually when I was in the world of concourse, we had to where lead was lead was replaced.
Yeah.
With lead.
Yes.
So we have a client that doesn't want to do it. So it's like, okay, well now I got to think of. I want to do lead, but he doesn't want lead on his car.
Right.
So we're gonna go to a different situation, and we're here. Why the hell not ask?
Yeah. We wanted to get your opinion on it.
Here's the difference here also. Those old guys could ask lead to do crazy things. You could get film build, crazy custom stuff, tunneling, Frenching, all the stuff, and you could make peaks and fins and stuff out of lead. That's asking a little too much out of that filler to do that. So when I advise people on this, what to put in those sail panels, get your body work within a quarter of an inch. Don't ask that product to do any more than a quarter of an inch thickness. Then you'll retain that flexibility on those key points that need to flex. Frankly, those places in that car, they need to flex.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
there's reasons, that they're there.
That's the reason they use lead, because lead remains somewhat flexible. Yeah.
Yeah, because I worked on the 39. Was it a Pontiac? It was the last year for the carriage. Was it a Pontiac? What the hell? Not a Pontiac. I don't know. What the hell was that? I don't know. It was a 39. It was the last year for the carriage era.
Okay.
Like the internal structure was wood.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they just put literally big pieces of metal on and then hammered it in with carvers and nails and then filled it with some serious lead. And I mean, holy shit, the craters of lead that was used for that. Like, I wouldn't even want to put it. I don't even know if we could put another product in
it's
those
amazing.
areas.
I've got a lead kit sitting in a drawer over there. I bring it out and I put it beside body filler, Bondo, which is a trade name, but I don't use Bondo because it's garbage in my opinion. But I use either Evercoat or U-Pole. But that's just my thing. But I put it and I say, lead was replaced in 1952 by the trade name Bondo as polyester surface enhancement repair material. This is, and it's come a long way, and we talk about chemistry and all that kind of stuff, which has come a long way since the early 50s, but people treated it like lead. That's why it got a bad name. That's why it would come out in hunks. People treated it like lead. Yeah. The technicians, well, this is to replace lead. Let me do what I used to do with lead. And it doesn't work like that, right? It's like trying to stack up lacquer primer and trying to make it build like a urethane or a poly. It doesn't work. The chemistry doesn't support it. So that's the other cool thing about this trade, and we can close with this, is that it's constantly evolving. So you either fall in love with the process of learning or you fall behind. So that's it. So, that's why I'm here, man.
Well, I tell you what, I think this is, if you've come along for the whole ride here, I feel like this conversation could last into more conversations. I feel like this little EV shit that we talked about, we're still waiting to do the EV show. I feel like maybe we have to bring another trip to Tennessee.
Maybe.
Because
I don't know.
This guy,
I'm
I feel
up for
like
a part
he's the one with the, you being involved with everything and her being on the front line and stuff. Like the EV talk happens constantly in our house.
She's saying no. She's shaking her head.
I hate EVs. Yeah. I absolutely despise.
Heard, chef.
Heard, chef. I don't get it.
You don't watch Food Network.
Exactly.
But no, I truly appreciate everything you're doing for the industry, Kevin, and I'm grateful you gave us the opportunity to come down here.
Well, it was fun to put together, and it's kind of cool for me to sit still long enough to do stuff like that with you guys. So thank you all, and it's a pleasure to meet you guys. I hope this isn't the last time we get a chance to chat.
No, we're planning trips down here to Tennessee too. We actually have. Well, we just talked to somebody else that might make us come back down here and do another podcast with them, depending on what route we're going.
Yeah, cool.
Hopefully that happens.
Yeah, we're planning on doing a bike trip down here and doing the Tail of the Dragon out east and stuff like that again.
It's on my bucket list.
But I mean, we used to run these streets, man.
Yeah.
You know, we lived here for years. We used to run these streets. Randy's probably sick and tired of okay, you were there. Okay. Yep. You were over there. There's pizza over there. Yeah. Let's just get to Kevin's place, man.
He ain't lying.
So, but no,
we'll be back.
Yeah. Last question. Where can people find you? Social media wise and things of that nature.
My YouTube channel is Paintucation by Kevin Tetz. My website is www.paintucation.com. I'm at Paintates on Instagram and X. And so on Facebook, I've got Kevin Tetz, I've got Hands on Cars with Kevin Tetz, and I've got Paintucation. So most of it is on Paintucation. Just look for Paintucation. I'm there somewhere.
Yeah.
And I just found this out about a year and a half ago. All the old truck shows, they're on YouTube now. So
I was thinking about it on the way down.
There's
I was like,
200 videos you can find just on trucks. then.
absolutely. Yep. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you again for letting us come down here. It was awesome. That was a great
Awesome.
episode.
Good time.
Pleasure is mine.
I'll let
Thank
you
the wife for
we'll let you get back to your
let
wife.
you play for a while.
But no, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, I got to put a plug in for us, I.B.F.HotRods. We have a group page on Facebook now. It's all about the build. It's going to be pretty easy to find. It's all about the build. So that's you'll get a little bit of information all week. We've been putting out there where we've been coming for this show. So we're going to do one more after this show. I'm going to get a picture with him, and that'll be pretty much the ultimate hint on where the hell we're at. So
Cool deal.
until then, check us out on YouTube, I.B.F.HotRods. You know that everywhere you can think you can find us. Just like sounds like same thing with Kevin here. So for me, Randy, and my wife, and of course, Kevin, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you guys later.
Thanks for listening to this episode of It's All About the Build podcast. Please comment and let us know your thoughts. Subscribe to the channel to follow along, and if you haven't already, check out our Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok to keep up with what we have going on every week. Thank you all for listening.